I can't describe it. What I'm feeling. What I'm thinking. This means something. It's important.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter the world of a great film, we explore its themes, the history, the filmmaking, and the influence it has on us today. My name is Steve Morris. I'm a filmmaker and directing instructor in Los Angeles, California.
Hello, everyone, again. My name is John Roca. I'm a voiceover artist, host, writer, producer, and I don't know, a million other things I do in this city to stay alive and have fun and enjoy my life. But most of all, I'm an avid movie lover, and I've been enjoying doing the Cine-Files for so long now, and I'm even more happy that we have one of our guests, one of our special guests, returning for this episode.
Well, there's no better person to talk about the love of movies than Access Hollywood's Scott Mantz, one of our all-time favorite guests. Scott, welcome back to the Cine-Files.
Fellas, it has been way too long. It is great to be back, and I have to say, and I'm not just saying this because I'm sitting in your place and you could, throw me out on the street.
I would never do that.
But I have not had this much fun, this much, it feeds my soul to be able to talk about movies so in depth and so passionately with fellow cinephiles who love film the same way I do. And of all the things I've ever gotten to do in my 20 years as a critic, my 27 years living in LA, pursuing my dreams, being on Cine-Files, thankfully, thank you so much for having me, really is just up at the tippy top as my favorite things I've ever got to do. And
Thank you, Scott.
absolutely mean
Thank you so much. Well, it is a joy and a pleasure to have you on and to talk. I mean, because this is what the Cine-Files is. The whole point, began with John and I late at night drinking and talking about movies.
Yep.
And just the love of that great conversation and bringing you into that conversation. We were missing the alcohol, but other than that, I think it's working out really, really well. And today we've talked about what you consider to be the Citizen Kane of Star Trek films, Wrath of Khan, the Citizen Kane of science fiction, Blade Runner. Is the movie we're talking about today the Citizen Kane of anything?
Yes, for me, it is the Citizen Kane of Spielberg movies.
Boom!
Wow.
Because not only is it up there with Blade Runner, it is really tied at number one with Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, as one of my top two favorite movies of all time. So to that extent, yes, it does tower, for me, it towers over Steven Spielberg's other movies. And this is a bold statement for Steven Spielberg as my favorite, very favorite of his movies. And the reason being because it covers so much ground. It is so ambitious, and it is full of so much emotion that we'll break down in this very special episode of Cine-Files.
and the film we're talking about, in case you didn't look at the title of the podcast, is Steven Spielberg's 1977, can we say masterpiece?
Please do.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Do you remember how you first came to this film?
Oh, I absolutely remember how I came to this movie. I remember it came out in Philadelphia on November 23rd, 1977, although it actually came out in select cities on November 16th. So, by the way, not to date this, but we do have to make special mention here. Gentlemen, we're taping this today on November 14th, 2017. So in 2 days from the day that we are having this conversation, it will be the exact 40th anniversary of when Close Encounters of the Third Kind first opened in theaters in L.A. at the Cinerama Dome.
Wow.
So that is very, very special. I know we've been meaning to do this for a while, so it was worth the wait.
We timed it up pretty well.
Yeah.
But how did I come to Close Encounters? Well, my dad, who had taken me to see Jaws at an early age, and I hadn't been in the ocean since,
You and me both.
he said he took me to see Close Encounters.
Oh, wow.
And this was, so let's see, I was 8 years old in November. I was about to turn 9, but it was a movie that even at a young age struck me because of the intelligent way it depicted contact with aliens. Even at a young age, after watching all these like sci-fi B movies on UHF and watching films like War of the Worlds, where First Contact is not pleasant for the people of the earth. Here was a film that encompassed so many emotions, and it was also a very personal story, and it was very smart. It was beautiful. It was sublime. It was funny. It was scary. It was terrifying.
Yeah.
And it was my dad who took me to see the film. So for all of those reasons, the nostalgia factor, only because of who I saw it with, that it was my father who introduced me to a movie that I still hold in such high regard.
Yeah.
That is how I was introduced to this film. How about you guys?
What about you?
Well, I think I remember seeing it when I was a kid, and there was something about, and I want to say this correctly, and I hope I don't say this incorrectly, is that sometimes I can dismiss Spielberg as a bit fluffy, as a bit populist, as a bit mainstream, and you can delude yourself that he's not an auteur. But he actually is, and I took a class at Florida State in the summer of one of my years that I was there, and it was all on Steven Spielberg. The book was what did they give you, the handout? The handout book was 380 pages. And
Right.
we studied every movie of Spielberg's all summer. One of the greatest classes I've ever taken, and it matured me as a viewer of film, but also as someone who appreciates Steven Spielberg and what he did. So I remember watching Close Encounters again that summer and enjoying it. But watching it a few weeks ago in the Cinerama Dome, because of the Fathom events, having you introduce it, having them do the whole, Scott, having them do the whole mini behind-the-scenes doc they did before the movie started, and then seeing the movie, I, for the first time, was affected by that film, I think in the way that Spielberg wanted people to be affected by the film. So in my way, I view that as the first time I actually saw the movie. Whereas
Right.
I watched it before, but I didn't see it. And this time around, maybe because of my age, maybe because of my maturity as a film lover and appreciator of film, I was able to understand what he was doing that was more than just frivolous. It was something that he had a lot of messages, a lot of things he was still trying to say. And this was the Spielberg at that time when he was still trying to say things that were a little darker, a little deeper, a little more complex. And this film really does it. And I walked out of it, went to see it with our friend Shannon McClung. Walked out, Shannon and I both were like, damn, that was actually really damn good movie. So
But
it's great that it still feels that way.
You know, the interesting thing, and I never thought about it this way until hearing you say this.
Yeah.
But John, you know, when you think of Spielberg, and I say, you know, I'm using the hand motion in quotes.
Yeah.
You know,
He really is.
when you're watching Duel and when you're watching Jaws,
Right.
You're watching a filmmaker who's very much inspired by Hitchcock.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But with Close Encounters, Spielberg was starting to better wrap his head around his own tastes, his own
I agree.
ideals.
Right.
Close Encounters feels more like a quote-unquote Spielberg movie than Jaws does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're seeing the great craftsman in Jaws, but I think you're seeing the real person. And it's funny because you said, I'm going to say where I saw it too in a minute, but you said, mentioned the fluffiness of Spielberg.
Yeah.
And that is the bad rap on Spielberg.
Yes.
And watching
And I was
Close
guilty of
Encounters
it.
this time, I really just go, that is so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm the same thing. You know, it's like that was sort of the common
Right, 'cause of E.T. and those
narrative
kinds of things, yeah.
him.
Yeah.
Well, and because this era of Jaws into Star Wars into Close Encounters.
Right.
This is the end of the 70s auteur filmmaker era.
Mm-hmm.
And that
Absolutely it
Spielberg and Lucas are the antidote to that or the enemy of that. And so when you're coming off of Scorsese and Coppola and Bogdanovich and all those people and you look at Steven Spielberg, the reaction of the intelligentsia or whoever is, this guy's fluff.
Yeah.
Looking at it today, he's not fluff at all.
He has Truffaut in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, right there.
When you put Truffaut in the movie, you as a film goer have to go, shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. This man knows, understands, and loves film and understands its power and its complexity. You can't dismiss him as calling him fluff.
And also, talk about a filmmaker who was in the zone.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about a filmmaker who was doing for movies what the Beatles were doing with music in the 60s.
Sure.
You know, you're looking at Jaws, Close Encounters, Raiders, E.T., and then all the movies
1941.
he produced. Hey, look, 1941 is an underrated movie, but even then all the films he produced, like The Goonies and Gremlins and Back
Poltergeist
to the
and-
Future, I mean, this is a filmmaker who was firing on all cylinders. And 77, I mean, you know, Jaws was 75. It was the first blockbuster to pass $100 million at the box office. And when Close Encounters opened in November of 1977, it came out the same week. This is kind of weird because Close Encounters came out the same week that Star Wars passed Jaws
Oh,
at
really?
the box office.
Wow.
I mean, it's like, you know, like these are the movies, guys. These are the movies that shaped our childhood.
Oh,
I mean, you know,
absolutely.
we could go back and say, "Oh, I love Citizen Kane. I love The Godfather. I love, you know, Sound of Music or whatever."
Right.
But this is our generation. These are the movies that formed our love for film.
Absolutely. So for me, I saw it in the theater at the cinema in Corte Madera, and I saw it with my family. And I remember it so strongly as a kid, being affected by it and expecting and not being able to deal with it, because the thing we're going to get into is this is a weird movie, and it is scary and dark, and I don't think you can walk out of this movie understanding exactly what it was. And I remember it was a movie I watched over and over again as a kid. I remember when the special edition came out, and I remember having this moment because Dreyfuss goes inside the spaceship in the special edition, which he didn't do in the theatrical version.
Right.
And I remember having this thing of like, this wasn't in the movie. And I remember at 9 or 10, probably 10 or 11 years old, having that memory of like, this isn't right. This isn't what's supposed to happen. Right. And the interesting thing that happened just watching it this last time is in my brain, I always grouped it with Jaws and Star Wars and maybe other films like, you know, Raiders, and as the wave of the 80s films come,
Right.
it actually doesn't fit in those at all. It is its own thing. And we'll talk, it's a much stranger, much more human and artsy film than those other films are.
Which is the reason why I think it's timeless. Why it's still topical, why it still works today, why audiences in 2017 can still see this for the first time possibly and be affected by Dreyfuss's journey, what happens to forget the actress,
Melinda Dillon.
Melinda Dillon's child, what happens in her journey, and everything that goes on. We connect now to these people who are off-center, who are nerdy, who are not normal, who do these crazy things
Right.
that test the limits of our understanding or patience because they're driven by something stronger, something deeper, something they need to discover and find.
That is an excellent perspective, one that I never really thought about. But it especially with today's culture, especially for what we do, this is a character who's much more relatable now, as we are grown-ups, man-children, so to speak, and so is Dreyfuss in this movie. He never really grew up. But going on what you're saying and how it doesn't fit in with those films, you're right. I think it's much more ambitious in its scope because of the way it is so much. There's so much going on here, and such a dramatic shift in tones in depicting each one of them, where the tone of one never intrudes on the other. That's hard to do.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the backstory. Okay. This is written and directed by Steven Spielberg. That is an unusual thing. And he was really... there's this moment he talks about. And I think, by the way, this and probably E.T. are the two most personal films for Steven Spielberg. And there's a moment he talks about, he's a little kid, and his dad woke him up in the middle of the night and took him outside to watch the meteor shower. And I think that had a big effect on him. That moment of looking out into the sky and wondering. And the thing is, Spielberg believed in this. He believed that all the UFOs, which were very big in the 70s, he believed this was real. This was a real thing that was happening.
This was also, you said, Watch the Skies. That was the working title of the film.
Yeah.
Now, it was written and directed by Steven Spielberg, but it wasn't originally written by Steven Spielberg.
Oh, really? I didn't know this.
It was originally, ladies and gentlemen, it was written by Paul Schrader.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Paul Schrader
Taxi Driver?
wrote, exactly. Paul Schrader wrote the original drafts of the screenplay. One was called Watch the Skies. Spielberg came in and did extensive rewrites on the screenplay to the point where Paul Schrader said, "Take my name off." And that is why Spielberg is credited as the screenwriter of Close Encounters. Now, here's the interesting thing. So, Close Encounters, it is credited as written by Steven Spielberg, and by most accounts, I mean, it really was. I mean, he got the credit, and he rewrote it enough. Yeah. It's his movie. So, you have the score by John Williams, which has the motif for When You Wish Upon a Star.
Mm-hmm. Right.
When You Wish Upon a Star came from Pinocchio. As far as I know, the next time Spielberg was credited as a screenwriter was 2001 for AI, Artificial Intelligence. That movie is Pinocchio.
Right.
Whoa.
Mind blown.
Yeah, seriously.
First of many mind-blowing moments we're going to have on Cine-Files.
This is a big budget movie. And after Jaws, he has the juice. And he, it's doing it at Columbia, and this is a big film in every single way. He wants great special effects, so where does he go? He goes to the guys who did 2001. He wants beautiful design, so who does he go to? He goes to Ralph McQuarrie, who did Star Wars.
Right.
He got the best of the best people to work on this film. He had this idea it was before Jaws, and during Jaws, apparently he was talking to Dreyfuss a lot about this movie. Dreyfuss wanted to be the guy. Spielberg didn't want him to be the guy.
Wow.
Did he have anyone else in mind?
Why, yes, he did.
Well, who did he have, Steve?
The person he really wanted was Steve McQueen.
Whoa.
You were just watching Magnificent Seven.
Yeah,
when
we
I
were.
walked in. Oh!
Yeah.
Wow.
He wanted Steve McQueen.
Steve McQueen.
So he calls. So Steve McQueen, sure, come and meet me at a bar to talk about it. Spielberg apparently had never been in a bar.
Makes sense.
He's a very pure guy.
Yeah.
And you want to know why McQueen turned it down?
Why?
He said, "I can't do this movie because I can't cry on screen. This character has to cry."
When does Dreyfuss cry in the movie?
In the shower.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah. When he's like, I don't know what's happening to me.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Well,
right.
and also we don't know what Steve McQueen thought he was supposed to cry at. There could have been
That's a
other
good
moments
point.
as well.
That's a good point.
And then he went after the top people in movies. He went after Hoffman, Pacino. All of them turned it down. Pacino, right?
Hoo-ha.
And the
UFOs, alien.
and the whole time Dreyfuss, you can totally picture this. It's just calling up Steven. You really should cast me. You really should cast me. I really want the part.
Right.
Well, can you imagine Pacino? That alien has a great ass. Your head's way up it.
Gene Hackman too. He wanted Gene Hackman to play the part.
Gene Hackman.
But you know what? When you have an actor who's so perfect for the role that you really can't imagine anyone else.
Yeah.
I mean, like when you not to jump ahead too far, but like the minute you see Roy Neary in his home with his wife Ronnie and his kids in that claustrophobic home where there's clutter everywhere, and he's not paying attention, he wants to go see Pinocchio, the kids want to do goofy golf, like he's already checked out. He's already checked out of his marriage, and it's only a matter of time before he checks out on everything else. But the movie, like I said, the movie opened on November 16th, and it was talk about it being a big budget. A big budget back in 1977 was $20 million. And it grossed.
That's a huge budget.
That
too,
is huge for that day and age. And it grossed worldwide $288 million, for 1977. And it was nominated for 9 Academy Awards. It won 2 of them for cinematography and a special sound effects award. And it won it was nominated for 7 other Oscars, including editing, score for John Williams, art direction, supporting actress Melinda Dillon, and director, but not Best Picture.
Yep.
Wow.
Now, what won Best Picture for 1977, Phyllis?
Annie Hall.
Annie Hall.
Yeah.
Which beat Star Wars.
Star Wars. Yeah.
Beat Star Wars!
So
How many times do we go back and watch Annie Hall? How many times do we go back and watch Star Wars? Enough said.
I don't know if you were there that night, but I remember my friend Michael Vogel and I think a couple other film people got into an argument for 2 hours about which film has the more lasting effect, Annie Hall or Star Wars? And it was a fantastic conversation to argue both sides.
Interesting that you actually can argue both sides.
I think you can. I think you absolutely can argue both sides. But I find it phenomenal that Close Encounters wasn't nominated, but Star Wars was. And I think Close Encounters is a better film than Star Wars overall.
I agree with that.
I don't think Star Wars... Obviously, Star Wars is a good film. We've covered it. But, like, I think Close Encounters is a more complete film.
Here's what I think. I think we have Scott Mantz and John Roca, and we cannot go down this road. Because if we go down this road...
I know, that's what I'm saying.
That's a whole other talk show, buddy.
My brain is spinning on things I want to say, and I will say none of them.
Oh, man.
But-
Honestly, I agree with you, John. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
But Empire Strikes Back, is that a better movie than
Absolutely.
Close Encounters? Okay.
Yeah.
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
All right.
I'm okay with not discussing it any further. As much as I want to. There'll be other times.
Patreon, maybe. All right.
Maybe
But
Patreon.
I think this movie, they shot for a little bit towards the end of 1975 because they were trying to Columbia Pictures, which was on the verge of bankruptcy in the mid 70s. They had to make some sort of like tax break, and the only way to do that was to start filming anything. They'll do anything at the end. By the end of 1975, so they shot like a very, very little, and then they didn't shoot again until the summer of 1976.
Do you know what they shot? I don't know what they shot.
I don't know what they shot,
I don't know.
but I'm guessing it wasn't an extensive scene because they just had to get something, on the books.
Sometimes business drives art, in all sorts of weird ways. So back to Richard Dreyfuss. The way he finally got the gig, which I loved, is he calls up Steven, which in my mind he was like calling him every other day, and he said, "Steven, this character needs to be a child. That's what he has to be childlike." And Spielberg went, "You're right," and that's how he got the gig.
Yeah.
And what Spielberg says about Dreyfuss is that when he wanted to put himself in a film, he cast Richard Dreyfuss. And there's something I love. Yeah.
I could totally see that.
Yeah.
That Richard Dreyfuss is sort of the big screen on camera version of Spielberg himself.
Yeah.
I absolutely see that.
Well, and this is such a personal film that I love Richard Dreyfuss. And he's one of those actors who I don't think gets kind of the praise that he deserves. And there are several movies where he is so damn good. And this one might be his best performance as far as I'm concerned.
It's because he has a reputation of being a phenomenal asshole too, and I think that's why he doesn't get the kind of love that he maybe deserves or merits. Same thing with Dustin Hoffman. Hoffman had a terrible reputation coming out of that time as well. So sometimes that can
rub off. Yeah,
that bleed out into the conversations and into the articles that you read about people.
And look, Dreyfuss sort of like fell off the map for a little while. After 1980, and then he made a big comeback in the mid 80s with like Down and Out in Beverly Hills.
Right.
And,
What About
Tin
Bob?
Man,
All those things.
yeah, exactly. What About Bob?
Tin Man is great.
I love Tin Man.
is a great movie.
Right.
I love Tin Man.
But with regards, when you say that Close Encounters is a personal film, I agree with that. It's definitely something that he was inspired by when he was little, and it was the first of a few times that he dabbled in aliens and science fiction. And it is also a film, if you think about it, fellas, Spielberg would not have been able to make E.T. if he had not done Close Encounters first.
Agreed. Totally
They are
agree.
both dealing with first contact.
Yep.
One of them is on a global scale. One of them is on a personal scale. And within the global scale of Close Encounters is a very personal story that went more personal with E.T. because of the family factor, being a child of divorce, because of the way he shot the film from the waist down until you see the rest of the adults.
Yeah.
I mean, E.T. is a masterpiece. It absolutely is. But so is Close Encounters because of the scope of the film. And and then, of course, let's not forget, the music of this movie is one of the things that I love the most about this film, even as a little kid when I saw it. But when I saw it again over the summer for the advance of the 4K Blu-ray that came out, so it never fails that the music is always what gets to me the most, and it brings me to tears. It really, really does. I don't care how many times I watch Close Encounters. When you get to the end of the film, the big showdown, the money shot, so to speak, with all the UFOs and flying around Devil's Tower, it's just so sublime, and the score, just how John Williams was able to compose and conduct the scores for Close Encounters and Star Wars at the same time is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
It really, really is.
Well, it's we can have lots of arguments of who the greatest filmmaker is of all time. It's hard not to argue that John Williams is the greatest composer.
Yeah, I think Bernard Herrmann is the only one that even remotely comes close.
I completely agree.
I love
his
Bernard
films,
Herrmann.
but his films aren't anywhere near in the scope that Williams has to do, like in terms of the expansiveness of those films.
Well, and so many decades where he's still just doing it.
So much so that he's still working now.
Yeah.
The Star Wars stuff, yeah.
Definitely.
What do you think? Should we get into the movie?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, we start in Mexico. And by the way, I should say, there are 3 versions of this, or maybe there are more. 3 that I know of.
3. Yeah, they
3.
have the original cut, the special edition, and then the director's cut.
And I watched the director's cut for this, and something I should have done, but I didn't, is I don't have all the detailed of this was in this one, this is in that one. This I don't really. I know the basics, but you might know more. But we start in Mexico, and it's pretty mysterious. What the hell is going on?
Okay, now originally, the film was not supposed to start with this shot in Mexico. The movie was supposed to start at an airport hangar where the interpreter, David Laughlin, meets
Francois
Lacombe
Truffaut, yeah.
for the first time in a limousine. And like as filming was progressing and they were going back and looking at the film, Spielberg thought like the movie needed a bigger punch to start the movie. So he got rid of that scene, the opening scene that he originally had with Bob Balaban and Francois Truffaut, and instead, the last scene that was filmed for the movie became the new first shot of the film,
Wow.
and that is what we see in Mexico, and it is a doozy.
It's amazing. Well, and this is the thing. Listening to what Spielberg said about this film throughout, it really sounded like he was just playing with his toys. Like he had so much power after Jaws that he was just like, I have this idea. And people were running and scurrying. Let's do that. And he tried all sorts of crazy stuff, some of which doesn't end up in the film. And this is like, yeah, let's have this crazy, windy, mysterious Mexico opening. It's gorgeous.
And the opening credits, this is something from the very beginning. Before you even see like the title cards announcing the studio, who the producers are, and you hear very, very slowly the score sort of slowly fade in.
Yeah.
And it already sounds like it's alien. It already sounds like it's out of this world. And as that score builds, as the credits continue to get rolled out, and the score builds and it builds, right away, as you know, with the climax of that moment in the score, you could see an alien standing there, and it would make sense.
Absolutely.
And instead, you see a flash of white light. And you're in the desert, and it is so windy, it is so dusty, the sand's blowing all over the place. You feel like you need to put glasses on and a towel around your head to keep yourself shielded. It's so effective, that scene.
And we meet Bob Balaban, who is thrown in to be the interpreter for Francois Truffaut. One of the interesting things I found out is at his audition, they asked Bob Balaban if he could speak French, and he says in beautifully accented French, I only speak a tiny bit of French. I don't really speak it very well, or something like that. And none of them in the room speak French, so they go, oh, he speaks French. Right. And they give him the job.
So begins a decades-long career of Balaban.
He's fantastic. And we meet the great Francois Truffaut, who I don't think we can express how important this guy is to the lovers of film and filmmakers at this time.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, best known as a director.
Yeah.
But
French
this was
New
the
Wave,
only American film that he ever acted in that he did not direct himself. Well, only film he ever acted in that he didn't direct himself. And when he agreed to play Lacombe and Claude Lacombe, he told Spielberg, I will act in your movie, and that is it. Like, he really laid the law down, like, I'm not going to help you out as a director. I'm not going to be your first AD. I am just going to be your actor, and that is all.
So you're trying to tell me there was a prickly French guy? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
No,
is that
not at
something
all.
new? Is that something new?
I don't think he was prickly at all. From everything I hear, he is lovely and warm.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean just the idea that he'll only do this. I think that sounds like. And you know what? I'm not the biggest Truffaut fan as a director. I don't like 400 Blows. I'm not a Jules.
I'm not either.
I'm not. But Goddard is that's my guy. But I love Breathless. I will watch it a million times a day. I love that film. But I love Truffaut in this movie. I love how earnest he is as an actor. And all these guys, these French New Wave directors, all started as actors initially, mostly, and then moved into directing film and with their Cahiers du Cinéma and all that stuff. It was fantastic. So to see Truffaut even in 2017 in this film is so much fun for me.
You know, it's such a well executed scene because like
Yeah.
what you don't know what's going on or why they're there.
Yeah.
And then when you see the reveal of the planes.
Yeah.
Of Flight 19, which was lost over the Bermuda Triangle in 1945, and they're reading off the serial numbers, and it looks like they just got there. They look brand freaking spanking new.
Yeah.
And they're working. They have pictures of the families and the kids on the cockpits of the flight planes, and when they go to the sort of senile guy, I guess he's a mentally challenged guy, and half his face is sunburn, and Claude Lacombe even says, is it sunburn? And like, where did this come from? And he goes, what happened to you? And he goes, the sun came up last night. He said it sang to him.
Yeah.
It was the bright light. He thought it was the sun. And what did it sing? Do 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 do. I mean, it's chilling. It's chilling to think, like, now you know what goes on in the movie. Like, this the slow reveal and the way it all comes together until it really does come together at the end.
Well, this is the thing we talked. It's come up over and over again on the Cine-Files, which is that most movies are mysteries. Is that the whole point? Is you're watching this going, this is crazy, fascinating stuff. I want to know what's going on. Yeah. And then we go from there. We go to an air traffic control thing, and we have people talking to planes, and the plane they say they see something, and there's bright lights. And what's great about this scene that I think is that we, the audience, we know what they're seeing. Because there's an interesting thing in most movies is that whatever weird mystical thing is happening in a movie, that's true. If we're watching a werewolf movie and everyone doesn't believe in werewolves are real.
Yeah.
So we know what the pilots and the airplanes are seeing. They are seeing UFOs. But the tension in the scene is everyone trying to figure out what is going on.
Ares 31. Ares 31 is the plane that they're talking to, and they're all real air traffic controllers in that scene.
Oh, wow.
They are not actors.
Oh, really?
So that really, that was a brilliant stroke to use real air traffic controllers because that's their job. They don't have to act. They're doing their job. And again, the UFOs are talked about, but they're not seen yet. Like the slow build to all this is really extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, they asked the question, do you want to report a UFO?
EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over. EWA 517, do you want to report a UFO? Over.
Negative. We don't want to report.
Ares 31, do you wish to report a UFO? Over.
Negative. We want to report one of those either.
That's just great.
Yeah.
And then we go to Muncie, Indiana, to this gorgeous nighttime shot of this house in the middle of nowhere. And we see these toys. Little monkey starts doing his little gong.
Which is, by the way, is scary as shit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's nice and quiet. You hear the wind coming in through the windows.
Yep.
It's a nice serene house in the middle of nowhere, countryside.
Yeah.
And then eat, and then ching, 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 and look with care for the shape of a square.
And we meet our kid, whose name is, I think, Barry Giller?
Carrie Guffey.
Carrie-
But that's the actor's name.
Carrie Guffey, and the actor is Barry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That is a cute kid.
Yes.
He has a high level of cutitude.
And he also was so good playing Barry, and he got his takes from the beginning. And Spielberg gave him a nickname, One Take Carrie,
Yeah.
because he was so good at getting his marks, hitting his marks and doing his scenes, usually in one take. And this filmmaker was so taken by Carrie Guffey's performance as Barry in Close Encounters. Stanley Kubrick wanted to use this kid as Danny Torrance in The Shining.
Wow.
But Close Encounters is the only movie that Carrie Guffey ever made.
Wow.
Never acted again.
I have a theory, by the way, about one take Carrie or one
What
take.
is it?
So because I listened to an interview with the kid, now grown up, And he told it exactly how you told it, that he was so, got it on the first take. They actually made a T-shirt that said one take, Gary, and all this stuff, and he was really proud of it. And then there's an interview with Spielberg. Here's how he said it. He said he was so spontaneous that he reacted so well in the first take. We had to get it on the first take because he basically implied, like, after that he wasn't so good. And this thing about directing is sometimes you say a thing to an actor in a certain way because you want to be supportive of them, but it isn't exactly the truth. And Spielberg sounds like he was great directing this kid. He did things like he said, I'm going to give you a present. And he had a present that was all wrapped up. And what he's reacting to off screen when he's looking at the aliens is Spielberg slowly unwrapping the present and taking out the toy.
Wow.
Toys.
Yeah, toys. That's why he says toys.
Oh, interesting.
At one point, he had a guy dressed up in a gorilla suit to surprise him. So he comes around a corner and there's a guy in a gorilla suit. Scared the crap out of him.
Right.
But that scene where we are in the house, Barry is up.
Yeah.
What's her name? Melinda Dilla's character is what is her name in the film?
Jillian.
Mm-hmm. So she's in bed. My take is that she's got a little bit of a drinking problem.
Mm-hmm.
She's kind of passed out in her bed. She's a little out of it when she wakes up. But when Barry is going, he sees all the toys coming on to life. So for a little kid, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, that's kind of cool. Like a grown-up would be terrified that these toys are coming to life. But a little kid is excited. He's like, wow, this is really, really cool. This is magic. But then this is a brilliant way that the film is directed in this particular scene, because we don't see the aliens. We don't see really a whole lot. We just see maybe a little bit of lighting,
right,
where the aliens are using their flashlights to look around the house. Like when Barry goes down the stairs towards the kitchen, you see for like a split second flashlights on the floor. And then when Barry comes around the corner and he looks in the kitchen and he sees that the sodas are all open and everything like that, and he looks up and he's looking back and forth and he smiles. Mm-hmm. Like a grown-up would have been terrified to see what he is seeing.
Right.
But he is like, he thinks this is really cool. And they're about his height, remember, because the aliens are pretty small. Yeah. And I'm going to say, and I always felt this way, didn't Barry look like the aliens? Don't you think he looked like them a little bit?
Maybe.
With the way his nose was shaped and the way his face was shaped, he actually looked a lot like the aliens you see at the end of the movie.
That's interesting. No, I hadn't thought about it, but sure. And he goes outside and he runs off. And it's funny seeing a kid just run out of a house at night today in 2017. Whereas probably there were kids playing outside in Indiana and all the time. That would be pretty normal.
Now, when you see the exterior shots in this movie, the outside shots, they're really gorgeous. The cinematography is really gorgeous. Yeah. But the fact is that anytime you saw an exterior shot in this movie, it was a special effect. Yep. It was not.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not. And I always thought there was something really unique about the way the exterior shots looked in this film. The cinematography, which won Vilma Sigmund, was a one cinematography. Yeah. Is like when you see the outside shot outside about Jillian and Barry's home, when you see Roy Neary driving through the countryside and there's a shot of the truck in the distance and the sky above, and definitely towards the end, the sky above Devil's Tower. It is all those shots, all of the sky shots, they are all special effects. Yeah. None of it is real.
And I don't know what it is, but I think they developed a new method of shooting starscapes for this film, but I couldn't tell you what it is, other than that it's different, and it looks gorgeous. Right. All right, let's go meet Richard Dreyfuss and his family.
Oh, wow.
I think Steven Spielberg shoots family life, suburban family life, in a way that we had never seen on film before. It is a completely, like previous to this, there was Father Knows Best sort of, and there were movies about parents where you would see the kids, but it wasn't really about the kids, and movies about kids where you kind of see the parents, but the chaos and the wildness and the humanness and unpredictableness of suburban 1970s family life, there's nothing like it. Steven Spielberg introduced an entirely new way of looking at families.
But at the same time, and I said this a little bit before, the minute you meet Roy Neary, he's on his way out.
Yeah, the newspaper's more interesting than anything around him, or what he's looking at. You know, is all more. Everything around him is more interesting than his family.
He's always paying
his
attention
wife.
to anything else
Yeah.
other than his
the
family.
TV or the newspaper,
trains.
the trains, whatever it is, whatever is in front of him is more important than his family
I
or his
never
kids.
had this thought. Now that you're saying it, I think you're both totally right.
Yeah, I don't think
didn't
it's a negative.
I didn't think of him as a guy. He's certainly distracted and
Yes.
childlike, but I hadn't thought like, oh, he's on his way out from this family.
Well, look at the way Ronnie, his wife, Terry Garr, who's terrific in the film.
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
Look at the way she treats him.
It's our third Terry
She
Garr
treats
movie, by
him
the way.
like a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She treats him like a kid because he's got all his clutter all over the place.
Right.
And she's like making a big deal because like, this is my desk. You're not supposed to put stuff in my area. Like,
Right.
really? I mean, come on. It's very domestic stuff that people argue about all the time. But Spielberg described Ronnie to Terry Garr by saying, this is where this person is. This is this person's life. This is all she's got is her family. She was a high school sweetheart, high school cheerleader. Her best days ended with that. That's all. That's
Wow.
it. And she's just like, this, I guess, what's my life now? You
Yeah.
know, what are her dreams? She didn't have any. She got married. She had kids. But she was the prom queen. She was the cheerleader. High school were the best days of her life.
And now she's got this train building man boy, you know, and we had some plans to go out and do, it was Pinocchio or Goofy Golf. The family sides against him.
That's right.
Golf!
Yeah. But right then there's a big power outage. So Roy's got to go out, gets in his truck. He heads out to deal with the power outage.
Okay, wait.
Yeah.
As the power is going out, let's look at what's happening here. The power goes out in the house. Then it shows the gas station. The power goes out. It shows McDonald's. Power goes out. Then it shows the block where the house. The power goes out from block to block in the neighborhood where the Nearys live. Then there's the biggest sort of like exterior shot, which shows that whole city, the power going out. Now, I don't know if you notice this, but above that shot, above the last shot that you see of all the power going out, you see a red light in the sky.
Yeah.
Okay, now that red light, I always thought it was an airplane. But when I saw it on the big screen again recently, I was like, no, wait a minute. That's one of the UFOs.
It's the red light UFO.
The red light,
Yeah.
right.
The one that gets
right.
close.
And so I remember this as a kid having a special feeling about that red light UFO because it was more whimsical on some level.
I never thought about it until
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah. I totally, for some reason, I connected to it as a kid.
What I really enjoy about this beginning intro of both of these characters, right? What we're going to find out with Melinda Dillon is that, like you were saying, she might have a drinking problem. Plus, how many single moms are there at this time in the country? And also, she's an artist. She draws. She has this thing about her that's very interesting. She probably had a one-night affair or a relationship with, and the guy left, couldn't handle raising a child, left her. She has this beautiful house. I don't know how she pays for the house, but she's there in the house. Beautiful, lush grass all around it, the trees, amazing expanse, and all this freedom. Then you have Richard Dreyfuss, who was like cluttered into this box, essentially, that he didn't want to be. Also kind of a childlike in the approach of things. Also somewhat of an artist in a certain way, an artist sensibility in a certain way, but trapped in a different situation,
Right.
Yet no less desperate. And that's
and-
what's interesting when I see these two people.
And at no point
Where she loves her child, he couldn't. It seems like he could get rid of the kids
couldn't
tomorrow.
care less.
Yeah.
And at no point watching this back and forth, going from scene to scene, watching this movie for the first time,
Yeah.
would you ever expect these two characters to be bonded in such a way and share a car together to go
Absolutely.
to Devil's Tower?
Absolutely.
Because they were so fundamentally different as people.
Well, crazy things happen when you get mind warped by aliens. You know? So speaking of that, he's in his truck. He stops the car.
You segued
Okay, wait.
to your own
Yeah.
point. Brilliant.
All right. Now, this scene that you're getting at now, Steve,
Yes.
is my favorite scene in the movie.
All right.
I can see it.
Okay?
Well, so tell us about
the
it.
build up to this scene. So Roy, he works for the power company.
Right.
And they send him out. So he gets lost and he's in the middle of nowhere. And the build up to
Remember
the
maps?
scene is
Remember
now
maps?
this is where I'm talking about how Spielberg really came into his Spielbergness with Close Encounters. So Roy Neary is stopped. He's looking at a map. The car drives up behind him. The lights come really close, and he's looking at his map, and he just sort of like waves the car to go past him. And the truck pulls next to him and goes, "You're in the middle of the road, jackass!" And he goes, "Can you tell me where cornbread is, turkey?" So then, now, after that first scene, we see Roy's truck driving across the country road, this time from a distance. This time, as Roy's truck goes from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen, at the moment, pay attention to this, fellas. When the truck gets to the right side of the screen as it's driving from left to right, the top left-hand corner of the screen, you see the red light in the sky. The same red light that was above the city that took out all the power.
Wow.
Now, Roy has stopped at a train crossing, and here comes another light. This one gets really close. He waves it along, thinking it's the same old thing. Person's going to go past him to his left, and the lights slowly start to rise, and everyone in the theater started laughing. They know what that thing is.
Yeah.
Now, he's sitting there with his radio on, and then the radio stops. The mailboxes start to shake, and then he takes out his flashlight, and he's looking at he's got the light shined on the mailboxes. The mailboxes are shaking, and then everything in the truck goes out. And then at that moment, the spotlight from the alien ship shines down on Roy's truck. The lighting of that scene, like the way the light shines down on his truck, it's like you could see the light wrap around. It's not this like instant light where it's like flick, it's on.
Yeah.
The way the light, I don't know how they shot that scene. The light, you see the light envelop his truck. It's a gorgeous scene. And then everything is going crazy in the truck, and he's terrified. The radio's going on and off. The ashes are coming out of the ashtray, and it's like gravity sort of like loses itself for a little bit there, and then just like that, it stops. And then you hear some crickets in the background, and Roy Neary is terrified. He slowly peeks out, slowly looking through the windshield, looking up, and he sees the alien ship going across the sky. And it's just a beautiful scene, because at that point too, he looks out the window and he looks up, and the light from the alien ship, it shines down on his face, and he's covering his face, only half of his face. But that's why only half of his face gets the sunburn.
Yeah.
But then when the light goes off again, and Roy's just sitting there, and he's just kind of like processing what just happened. And then in the distance, a little further down the road, above another street sign, I never understood the significance of this moment. But Roy is just looking ahead after he sees the alien ship above, and he looks down the street, and he sees the spotlight shine down on another street light, and then the light goes off. Like, I never understood what was behind the decision to do that. I mean, it may be nothing at all. It may have been it was just like, I was looking at other things around the truck. Maybe that was the moment that sort of like gave him the vision to, you got to go to Devil's Tower. I don't know. And there's no score to intrude on the suspense. It's perfect. It is a perfect scene. And then everything comes back on. And he's like, right. It's great.
So first of all, just on the spotlight going on, is that there's so many things in this movie which are left mysterious. Like, this isn't like a mystery where you get to the end of the movie and you go, everything now makes sense. You don't.
Right.
Like, you get to the end of the movie and go, wow, there's a lot of things that are still mysterious. We don't know where those planes were doing, or we don't know what that boat was doing, and we don't know why that spotlight hit that spot.
Right.
One thing technically, just because it's awesome. So the effect that happens when he's in the truck, when gravity goes awry, as you told so beautifully. So where that comes from is they said, what are we going to do? And what Spielberg was inspired by is Fred Astaire dancing on the ceiling. And so the famous Fred Astaire dancing around the room shot, where they have a whole room on a gimbal that can spin, and they have a camera that's locked to that gimbal so that it appears as if he's going and dancing on the ceiling. Well, that's exactly what they did. Is they have the entire thing flipping upside down with the camera staying locked to him, so that gravity does go awry because he's hanging from the ceiling at one point in that shot and then rotating around. Yeah. It's a great effect.
It's such a great effect. It's such a great scene because just like that is, for me, there are so many quintessential shots that you take one look at this shot and you know it's Close Encounters.
Yeah.
I think one of the shots that they used a lot, especially back in the 70s, was the shot of Barry opening the door.
Right.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Because there's the innocence of this young kid, and there's the aliens outside. It's a great shot. But the other one is the shot of Roy Neary's truck at the railroad crossing with the light shining down on it.
Absolutely.
You know, it's in the middle of nowhere. He is by himself, and he is having a quintessential close encounter. Yep. And no one's going to believe him.
No. And then what does he do?
He chases it.
He takes off.
Right.
Yeah. He takes off and drives
I love that scene. He turns on the radio. He's like, okay. And he just just past the Harbor Freeway and it leads toward Harper Valley. And he just takes off. And then we have I guess you could call it a meet cute, but it's not a meet cute, of when Roy and Jillian meet for the first time.
Yeah. That's right. Well, we follow the little kid down this kind of country road.
Yeah.
And he ends up in this place on this kind of mountain, and there's some people and a truck are waiting, and there's a guy who's whistling. And again, the cinematography is just, and this is all interior sets.
Yeah.
Right.
And the cinematography is gorgeous. And mom shows up, Jillian shows up to find her kid, and here comes Richard Dreyfuss in the truck and almost hits the kid.
Almost runs the kid over.
Yeah.
By the way, the actor whistling is
She'll
the
be
guy
coming
from Home
around the
Alone.
mountain.
Is from Home Alone. He's the old guy with Kevin in the church.
right.
That's the same actor.
Good one.
Yes.
I saw Bigfoot once.
I saw Bigfoot once.
Yeah.
I love that. So this is interesting, Steve, because they know this is not a close encounter, and we're initially believing that it's a new thing that this kid is seeing with the choice. We think it's a new thing that Richard Dreyfuss is seeing. These people camp out on the side of the road. They don't make a big deal. They know.
You're
course
right.
of
They
course
were
they
sitting
know.
there waiting for it.
They've been sitting
Well,
there
the
whole
question
time.
is, were they contacted tonight like the kid and Richard Dreyfuss, or were they contacted sometime in the past?
No, what he's saying is they knew.
I think they know exactly when that thing comes. It comes at certain times. It's scheduled to go because it's a reconnaissance ship. It's essentially a reconnaissance ship, almost like a policeman doing patrol at the same time at night.
I think he's right because like the way that the way they're standing there, like they're sitting there with their arms folded, they are waiting.
Yeah, they know.
Oh,
They're
no
not
question.
like they're doing other things, you know. I mean, like the guy sitting there whistling, she'll be coming around the mountain.
Right.
All right. They know. You're right. I never thought about that.
Really? Okay.
They
It seems so obvious to me
knew.
that-
This is very educational.
Well, there's no question to me that they know. My question, and this is why I go like, I don't think this movie is knowable. Is like, are they Richard Dreyfus's that got affected by the aliens and are having a vision like Devil's Tower, and that's what's telling them to be here at this time? Or are the aliens coming regularly to this spot, and that's why they're hanging out there?
I would say regularly for this spot, and this is my opinion, obviously.
Yeah.
But regularly to the spot because they don't go to Devil's Tower.
Right.
They don't go.
Right.
They have their own purpose to serve in this whole situation, including Homie whistling around the mountain, because he ends up later in that science institute in the table. Right. They all have their part to play in this, but Richard Dreyfuss and Melinda Dillon are and his child Barry are the chosen ones. Those are the chosen ones for us as our protagonists to follow through this whole journey. Because a bunch of other people go to Devil's Tower, but those three are the ones we follow.
Well, they're our main characters for a movie, but then Francois Truffaut says something about imagine the hundreds of other people who didn't make it that far.
Right.
There's the implication that there could be thousands of people.
Sure.
Right, who didn't make the connection to go to Devil's Tower.
Yeah.
Right.
Or couldn't
Who
for whatever
knows?
reason.
Right.
Yeah.
There
Who
could
we
be
don't
a
know.
whole lot.
And then in come those aliens. In come those spaceships.
It's just
That's
so great.
It's such a because like the score is just very minimal, and then it stops, and there is Melinda Dillon kneeling down with Barry.
Yeah.
And here come around the mountain, how they shot that scene.
It's the special effects.
It looks
still
real.
looks like it looks
so
fantastic.
real.
I mean, if that's
So
a
real.
model, I don't know how the hell they did that. But very distinct, different looking alien ships come around. One of them looks like an ice cream cone, and then the very last one is sort of like the running joke of the movie. Every time you see the aliens, is the little red light.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Dreyfuss goes, "This is nuts," and he takes off.
Takes off and chases
and
him.
it's so great the way he's chasing the aliens and the cops are chasing. Look at the way they're hugging the road, and then the way Richard Dreyfuss and the cops they're chasing the aliens. They go through the toll booth.
Love the toll
Hey, that's
booth.
Ohio. That's a quarter. and the way they keep going, and the other cops are so transfixed by what they're chasing, they just drive right off the road.
Yeah.
But then the other cops, the way they screech to a halt, and then Roy Neary and the other cops, they get out, they just look ahead, and the aliens, they just keep going straight, and they all disperse, go up in the sky, right?
So great.
It's beautiful. They just keep going,
Right.
and then they just part ways and go up in the sky, and then the lightning, and the clouds and the light from the ships, and then you see the life come back to the city. And Roy is like, he just found his purpose. That look on his face, he's like out of breath, and then it hits him.
Yeah.
It hits him. I mean, part of it hits him. Enough of it hits him where
Well, he's
it's
changed.
the beginning of
Yeah.
the end. It is the beginning of the end for him.
So one of the things as a directing instructor that people, is a regular thing you tell film students is to watch films with the sound off, because you could really see the storytelling and not be distracted by something. And this is something I've heard Spielberg say in multiple interviews, that this is a big thing for him, that he believes. Up until this point of the movie, and we're 25 to 30 minutes into the film, I would say there is almost no essential dialogue. That this is very, with the exception of the sun came out at night, it sang to me. Richard Dreyfuss, we don't care about Pinocchio or golf or the train. There's nothing with Jillian and the kid. It's almost works as a silent film. This is Spielberg's real genius. And it's funny too, thinking about it, is to me, the biggest directorial influence that I see in this film is John Ford. Searchers. Is that the way the film is shot, the beauty of the storytelling, the beauty of the frame, and how people move into the frame tells us so much about what's going on. It is people looking, it's these landscapes, and you're getting, and this is why the idea of fluffy Steven Spielberg is, looking at it now, is so ridiculous. Is that he is a deep, profound, beautiful artistic filmmaker working, I mean, just pure genius going on here in this film to do it that way. Yeah.
Agreed.
We get back home with Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, he is excited.
Poor Terry.
Poor Terry Gar.
I feel for her through the whole movie.
Yeah.
As you should.
Because I agree with you. I think she's a woman who got
Well,
into
no,
this
I take
situation.
that back. There are some moments I do not feel for her.
Well,
Yeah. When,
We have to have
the scene in the
perspective.
shower, she's
It's
a little
cool.
insensitive.
Yeah.
But okay, so he rallies the troops. He wants to drag him out.
Right.
And this is a really nice moment.
And
Steve.
the neighborhood are looking at how crazy they are. Yeah.
When they go out, when Dreyfuss takes him to the point where he first saw them, and she's like,
Roy, what did it look like?
It was like an ice cream cone.
What flavor?
Orange. It was orange. And it wasn't like an ice cream cone. It was more like a shell, It was like this.
Like a taco? Was it like one of those Sara Lee moon-shaped cookies? Those crescent cookies?
she's humoring him.
Yep.
She's going along
of
with
course.
it.
Don't you think I'm taking this really well? I remember when we used to come to places like this just to look at each other.
And he's looking up, and she's kissing him. And this really gets me, this moment. And maybe because of the score, it's the way it sort of like slides back in. She starts kissing him, his cheek, his neck, and he's looking up, and he's oblivious. And then he realizes what she's doing, and he looks back at her. He goes, he smiles. Like, it's the only point in the film that he, loves her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he starts kissing her. And that lasts for about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And then in the middle of the kiss, he's looking
eyes
back
go
up
back
at the sky.
Yeah.
She had him for seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I feel sympathy for her, because he, like Scott said, she probably married him out of high school, had the kids. This is what you're supposed to do at that time, right? This is still, we're right at the cusp of the women's liberation movement, marching, ERA, burning bra. Like all this stuff is right at this point. And she's still caught in the traditional sense of being the wife and the mother and having the kids. What about my dreams? What about what I want? Where is my place in this? And there, the kind of the hidden subplot of this whole movie is her journey too, in dealing with a guy who is this distracted from their marriage, who finds that there's more worth in pursuing this than there is in working on this.
Yeah.
And that's really powerful. And although he is a hero in a sense in the movie, he does leave a trail of bodies on the way to this.
We're going to have to get into that because, I mean, that's part of why Steven Spielberg says he wouldn't make this movie now.
Exactly.
But ask yourself, why does he bring them with him?
Well, if he
thinks so little
that
of
would
them?
not. He
if
was.
you have a profound experience.
I could see where Spielberg at that time of his life, before he knew what it meant to have a family,
right,
to be really selfless and generous and think of other people before you think of yourself.
Well, the Mountain is him as a film director. Nothing else matters. He may have had other relations, like the Amy Irving situation that he was dating at the end, and then before Kate Capshaw came in and that whole thing happened. But there may have been other women in his life who were like, "What about look at me," and he's like, "No,
they weren't the love of his life."
Film, right?
And I want to frame this a slightly different way too.
And I don't know that for sure, but I'm just saying.
No, I'm not disagreeing at all. But is that part of what we do as artists is to take circumstances and reimagine them and ask what if. And to me, I go back to that moment where Steven Spielberg's dad woke him up in the middle of the night and he takes him out to look at the meteor shower.
Wow.
That's this moment. Because you reimagine, you go, what if there was something more?
Right.
What if my dad had seen something? What if there was this wonder and magic and aliens? Yeah. And this is that moment reimagined. So yes, I think it is about the family and it is about Terry Garr's character and all that thing, all that is there, but it's also about this magical reimagination of this own experience connecting with his father.
Great point.
So and then we go to the Gobi Desert in Mongolia.
And what are we doing there? Who are these people? How do you go from Indiana to...
But this is what I forgot about the film, is the scope of it.
It's big.
The scope is
international
global
scope of it.
scale. It is a global scale. I mean, because you're at the Gobi Desert, you're in India. But that's how... And that goes back to your point where how many people around the world
have been affected by this.
Were given this vision but didn't make the connection. We're just looking at the people in the USA.
Yeah.
But this is clearly something that was affecting people around the world. And this is where...
For decades.
For decades.
For decades.
Right. So what the hell is this ship doing in the middle of the desert? How the hell did it get there? The Cotopaxi beats the shit out of me.
Yeah. And who do we get to see again? Our old friends Bob Balaban and Francois Truffaut. And it's like, oh, that's them again. So we have these personal stories where we're kind of being involved in characters, and then we touch in on this global thing that we don't quite understand. We're back home with Richard Dreyfuss. There's an article about the UFO in the paper. I love they kind of try to surprise him. He scares him with the toothpaste. This is all good family fun.
Until he finds out that he lost his job.
Well, before that, while he's shaving, he's got the shaving cream.
Yes.
Oh, first time we are seeing the effect of his vision. This is the first time where he is looking at the shape of something going, this means something. And when he puts the shaving cream on his hand, like the framing of the scene, and then the sort of the way the score is like building beneath the surface, and he starts moving around his hand to shape the shaving cream, and he shows it to Terry Garr. What does this mean to you? What do you?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, whatever. She has no clue what that was getting.
Of course, because if someone did that, you would be like, shaving cream. Like, what are you talking about?
Totally.
I mean, how you deal with your spouse who is going completely apeshit crazy, it's a tough one, because he is going crazy. And yes, we do find out that he's lost his job, and Terry Garr, she's worried about the family image.
Ronnie, I saw something last night that I can't explain.
I saw something last night I can't explain.
I'm going out there again tonight,
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
That's what she's really worried about.
To the neighbors.
To the neighbors.
Yeah,
Right.
which I think is, and I think what you said about Spielberg, like he would shoot it differently today.
Yeah.
I think that's probably something too, because she's not wrong to
No,
feel this
not at
way.
all.
And I think the film sometimes does her an injustice by making her seem like a nag or a status person or a person who's about appearances. But this is such a drastic change in someone's life. How would you really deal with it?
Oh, yeah. No,
we
it-
utopian think we know how we would deal with it. But in reality, it's a lot to process and take in
It's
one
happening
time.
really fast.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, we don't know
It's not a
exactly how
gradual
much time
loss of
this is, but
mind.
we assume this is a matter of days.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the article.
If
It's in
that.
the newspaper, and I don't think we spend a lot of time before we get to where we're going.
Yeah.
Of course, right now where we're going is to India.
Okay, this is a great scene. This is a great scene because
Take a Scott,
the comparison to the scene in the desert, which was very spare, very sparse.
Yeah.
You know, there's only like a couple of people in the Mongolian desert, but now you're in India where it is very crowded, very congested, very populated, and there's a lot of chaos going on when we once again see our old friends, Francois Truffaut and Bob Balaban, with their entourage of, you know, who are these people? What are they doing? What are they doing? And you hear everyone in India chanting those 5 notes. And it's like all those people chanting. I mean, it's chilling the way the camera like pans across and all the people there. Hundreds of people are lined up chanting those 5 notes. The Kodai, musical notes.
Right.
And then when they go to the top of the hill, and they ask the interpreter,
Yeah, where did this? Yeah,
where did these sounds come from? And then wait. Oh my God, chills. I'm getting the chills right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
The interpreter says, hi-yo, hi-yo. He stops everybody chanting. And he says, these sounds, where did they come from? And all the fingers point up. And the sound effect, it's like this, like everyone's going up. And it's
Yeah.
like the way the fingers all, like you're looking at the interpreter on the hill and all the interpreter on the hill. And then in the same frame, all the fingers point up. They are coming from up. And then you cut to this much more civilized depiction of in a huge stadium, just a handful of people going like, okay, this is what we have so far. We have these sounds, we have the signal, and it took a long time, many viewings, for me to realize that in that scene when Lacombe is demonstrating the hand signals to go along with the music.
Yeah.
Did you notice that off to one side, from their backs, you see the astronauts?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
Go back and watch it again. Just you don't have to watch the whole thing. Just watch the scene. Go forward to that scene in the stadium or in the like looks like a auditorium.
Yeah, conference.
And where they are going through the different hand signals, and Lacombe is saying, we think this means something. We think this is important. At that moment, you see a group of about a dozen, right? Yes. And they have their backs to you. And you realize later, many viewings later, in fact, is that they have already chosen the astronauts that they want to go up to the spaceship.
Yep.
That's so fascinating because there's this other movie that we're not really getting to see, which is the character. Who is Francois Truffaut?
Right.
And what has he been doing? And what has been this what led him to India, to Mongolia, to Mexico? What is this why did he discover these notes and these hand signals and combine them? It's like, what? And we don't get to know. We don't, there's so much, but this is very much the tip of the iceberg, and there's clearly massive, massive stories underneath. One thing we should talk about these 5 notes, because in general, when John Williams works, he doesn't want to read the script. He doesn't want to see the dailies. He wants to see a good rough cut before he even thinks about composing music.
Yeah.
And in this case, he couldn't do that because they had to have these. Not only did they have to have these 5 notes, but they had to have the musical conversation That already had to be worked out. And Spielberg was very insistent that it couldn't be 6 notes, it couldn't be 7, it couldn't be 8, because he didn't want it to be a melody. He wanted it to be a greeting. He wanted it to be a doorbell. And so Williams put together like 500 permutations of 5 notes, and they listened to them for days. And finally, there was one they had circled, and they brought in a whole bunch of new notes, and then let's go back and listen to that circled one, and then more and more. Let's go back to that circled one, and finally, after doing a lot, they're like, I guess that's
what they
it.
came back to.
I guess that's the one.
That's amazing. And by the way, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that instead of scoring the film from a rough cut, that Williams actually composed and conducted the score, and Spielberg edited the movie to match the score.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Yes, I believe that's the case.
Wow.
That Spielberg edited the film to match John Williams' score.
My guess, and I don't know anything, but my guess is that is true of the last 25 minutes. That because Spielberg described that last 25 minutes as John Williams' opera. That there was like an opera, the whole story musically beginning to end. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if it's true for that. Whether I have no idea, but that's my gut. So
now we'll go back to the moment, the area where we first saw the spaceships.
Yep.
Or that Richard Dreyfuss
exactly
and Linda
right.
Dillon first saw the spaceships. But now there's a ton of people. It's
Right.
like, it's like they're waiting for it. Now, were these people? Some of them, as we see later on, because they actually did make it to Devil's Tower, did all these people have a vision, or were they just there because of word of mouth? Who knows?
I think it's word of mouth.
I think it's both, yeah.
And I think this is something that we know from back then. I mean, having grown up around this time, there were people who believed in UFOs. There were people that had gatherings to try and see them. Yeah, that was the way it was done. It was almost like a communal event for these people who were into UFOs. You know, I call it the first Comic-Cons. These were the first Comic-Cons. They are just obsessed. They hope their stars show up, and they go all at the same time to try. And they had signs. They even had signs for this. So there was all kinds
stop
of stuff.
and be friendly.
Yeah, stop and be friendly. Exactly. Have signs. So that tells me everything. Well, actually, I love they used it in Independence Day too.
This is an interesting. Wait,
get
Independence Day,
blasted.
stop shooting guns at the end. That's LA. So this, the scene now, it's a good fake out because you see the lights. Everyone's saying, okay, they're coming.
Yeah.
And the lights are approaching, and they look like the UFOs. The way that Douglas Trumbull, who was the VFX guy, Oscar nominated for this film, and he worked on Kubrick with 2001. He also did the VFX on Blade Runner and Star Trek: The Motion Picture. But the way, a Douglas Trumbull visual effects shot. Like when you see a light, there's like a halo around the light, and it's so unmistakably Douglas Trumbull's work. So as the ships are approaching the mountain, and you see the halo around the lights, and then you realize they're not spaceships, they're helicopters, and they're trying to get everybody to shoo away. And this is interesting. So the helicopters are hovering above the crowd. Everybody's dispersing, and it's chaos, and everybody's running off in different directions. Now, Dreyfuss is standing there. He's looking up at I think it's a street sign, and it's swinging back and forth in the wind. Mm-hmm. Now, is he second guessing what happened at the railroad crossing? Because
that's a great question.
Because he's looking up. He's looking up at the street sign that's swinging back and forth because of the wind from the helicopter. Mm-hmm. In the same way that the railroad crossing was just swinging back and forth without any help at all, except from an alien.
Yeah.
So I often wondered if at that moment when he sees the sign go back and forth, if he was like, maybe it was a helicopter. Maybe it wasn't a spaceship.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it, but totally could be.
Sure.
We go to, we're sending out those 5 notes off to a satellite dish, and they're getting a signal back.
Yeah, 2 seconds.
But what does it mean? It's like we're getting numbers. What do the numbers mean? It's a good thing Bob Balaban is a cartographer because he knows the answer.
A little contrived moment, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Before I was speaking French, I read maps.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I do love that they go, well, we need to, it's coordinates. We
Yeah.
need to go, does anyone have a map? And of course they find this giant earth globe, that they have to
No,
roll.
that's $1 billion. That's $100,000 globe. What are you
love them
doing?
love that.
And,
I
and
love
that's
that.
Spielberg's sensibilities, right? And that's
No
what
question.
makes him such a gifted filmmaker. There's been all this kind of seriousness up until this moment, and then he rolls these incredibly intelligent, smart men grab a globe and roll it down the hallway. It's just brilliant.
That's great.
It's just
That's
brilliant.
so great. Yeah,
He's
the
so
levity.
smart.
The levity in that scene is great.
Yeah.
And now we're at I would say the scariest scene in the movie
Oh, with Barry.
with Barry.
Yeah.
Now, this scene, by any measure, in any film, is terrifying.
Yeah.
The abduction of Barry.
Yeah.
We're back at this house in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
We are, Melinda Dillon is taking out the trash,
Yeah.
and the clouds are rolling in. They don't look right to Melinda Dillon.
These cloud effects are amazing.
I mean,
gorgeous.
so scary.
Cloud effects, which were provided by mixing salt water and fresh water and putting ink in a jar, to get the effect of the slow moving cloud coming across the sky.
So cool.
Now, not only do you have the clouds rolling in, which are alarming to Melinda Dillon, but you also start to see the lights in the sky.
Yeah.
And that's when you see the lights shining down on Melinda Dillon as she starts to slowly walk in the house.
Yeah.
And then you see in the distance the lights come down, and that's when Barry's like, he's having a ball with all of this. Melinda Dillon is terrified. They are having such polarized reactions to such a unique experience.
Yeah.
And you don't see the ships. You don't see the aliens. You see lights. You just see lights. And she's trying to house-proof the place, close all the windows, lock all the doors, lock all the windows. But they are trying to find their way in. It is a scene out of a completely different movie.
Yes.
It is a different movie. It's a freaking horror
It's a
film.
horror film.
And
Absolutely.
It is. They don't realize that they are terrorizing her. They don't know any better, or do they?
We don't know what they know.
Right. That's a good point.
Like, this is one of the things about the movie is that Spielberg is trying to tell us a certain thing about the aliens, which I think is hopeful and warm.
Yeah.
But we don't actually know who these guys are. The moment that the kid opens the door, the red door,
That's one of the greatest cinematic
It's
moments
just a
ever.
Great. You could every
Framed.
time you
Yeah.
see a montage of great moments in cinema history.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
and Spielberg says, and I probably agree that this is the most important shot in the film, is that this is the moment. I think he described it as it's the child opening the door to curiosity and hope.
Interesting. I love that.
And here's the thing I was thinking about this, is that with Spielberg, the unknown is such an important theme throughout so many of his films, is that, and the unknown is either terrifying or amazing.
Yeah.
Is that there's the unknown of the driver in Duel and the unknown of the shark. And there's the unknown of the aliens in Close Encounters and the unknown of the alien in E.T.
Well, I think it's the unknown of the adult humans in E.T.
Oh, sure.
Because the alien is known, the kids are known, and the mother is known, but everyone else is shot from the waist down.
Yeah.
So
That's a
they're
great
the
point, too.
unknowns in E.T.
Well, you know what? It's both, because there's the E.T. before we know him in the
Right, of course,
shed.
sure.
That's the unknown that turns out to be good.
Right.
And then, I mean, this is a thing he plays with a lot. And this combination of fear and hope is definitely something that's really strong in Close Encounters.
For me, it's the turning of the screws in the vent. Like,
Dude, that's
so scary.
screws,
That's
yeah.
scary as shit.
That's a pickup shoot, by the way. They did that later.
Yeah, they showed that in the documentary before
Yeah.
the film. They showed how they were doing it and
It
how
is
they picked it up.
scary as hell.
Yeah, it is
But
very
then
scary.
just as scary is Barry goes through the pet door,
Yeah.
the front door,
Oh.
and the aliens are grabbing him
Oh.
on one side, and Melinda Dillon's grabbing him on. She is She is hysterical.
Yes.
Yeah.
She is absolutely hysterical. Her performance in that scene alone is why she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress.
Oh, I didn't realize she got nominated.
She got
Wow.
nominated
Makes
for
sense.
that.
Yeah.
And you know who else should have been nominated? Carrie Guffey. Barry.
Yeah, the kid.
If that movie was today, people would be talking about
That's a
how
real
he's going to
good
be like
kid
the
actor.
youngest Oscar nominee and all that shit.
Well, and before that, so going through that kitchen when the kitchen goes apeshit
Yeah.
crazy is also terrifying, and that's one take, and they didn't know. Like you can't rehearse it,
Right.
So that's just, and so she was genuinely freaked out and screaming during that sequence.
Well, Melinda radiates that naturally on screen.
Yeah.
She has that. I had such a crush on her growing up. That's my kind. Like that's my kind of what I find attractive in certain actresses. Like sure, just same thing with Melora Walters. I have a thing for Melora Walters as well. There's something about the
Yeah, they are similar.
yeah. That's which is
totally
why I
are.
enjoyed them in Magnolia.
Like in Magnolia. Yeah, you're
I
They're
can see
right.
so
that.
similar, and that's to me they have that same kind of vibe where they radiate that kind of broken vulnerability that you want to
Fragility,
take
yeah.
care. Fragility, very good points. Fragility that you want to take care of and nurture. And she is so broke because she's a free spirit. Her fighting for Barry, that's
Oh, yeah.
the last connection she has to something human. Her paintings, her drawings, her things. That's how she's doing her life. But the child is what gives her some kind of purpose, and so her having it yanked
This
away
scene
from
is-
her.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it is.
Not so horrible for Barry because the person on the other end of that doggy door is his actual mother.
And he giggles.
Yeah, his actual mother
is
is
that right?
pulling him through the doggy door.
Oh, is that right?
That's great.
No wonder he
he's fine with it.
got pulled
Yeah.
through. But like as soon as he's pulled through the door, she opens the door and they're already gone.
Yeah, they're way gone. And
They
she's
are
running
gone. She's
through-
running down,
Yeah.
and the lights fade and the clouds retreat
Mm-hmm.
very, very quickly. Like as soon as he gets pulled through the door, she whips it open. They're gone. Barry is gone.
We'll never see 70s Spielberg again. 70s Spielberg is the right mix of being unafraid to be dark or horror in certain moments because the overall end goal is something more positive and hopeful. It does not bleed into almost anything he does until
get
Schindler's
it.
List, and then after that, not
I
again.
agree with that.
And
I
it's
agree. Maybe Private Ryan, but but
not for me. Not for me.
I don't.
Except for that opening 20 minutes. Sure, 25 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with you. I mean, I think that he's made some good movies in the last 15 years. Minority Report I liked a lot.
Sure,
I think AI is an underrated movie. I do like AI a lot.
I love the first act of AI. I think it's amazing.
Yeah. I
the
think
second act I
the
like
last
less,
act,
and the third
people
act I
kind
don't like
of
so much.
it gets a little too much. You have to go with it, and I get the criticism of that last of the last 20 minutes of that movie, but I agree with you. I think when I think of Spielberg at his very, very finest, for you it's Schindler's List. I kind of stretch it to Private Ryan, but I do see why Schindler's List is sort of like that's it.
Yeah, it's almost like Tom Hanks. Remember when Tom Hanks would do amazing comedies in the 80s? We don't get that Tom Hanks anymore.
No, we
And it's
don't.
heartbreaking because he is a fantastic fucking
He is.
comedian.
He is so funny.
He's so great in those 80 movies, and we'll never, ever see
that's
that
the
again.
Money Pit. He's so good in the Money Pit.
All of it.
But that's the nature of
Even Man with
artistry.
One Red Shoe, he's fucking
the
great.
number of people the number of people that sustain over
Yeah.
decades.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people do it?
I know, you're right.
Now there's this press conference.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and where we have the people who experience these events, and they don't get a lot of respect.
No.
They're not respected in this situation.
What a shock. The
Yeah.
government doesn't believe, it's hiding shit and doesn't believe this.
And Whistling Guy says that he saw Bigfoot too is not helping us out at all.
And also, this is very, very, very close to Watergate.
Yes.
At the end of the Vietnam War,
Good point.
Right.
the
Very
government
good
was
point.
not trusted by this point, but they are still obviously in power, and they are not treating the people, especially the people in the room, with respect.
And to Dreyfuss's credit, as soon as the guy says Bigfoot, he knows he's cooked.
He knows, yeah, you're
he
Yeah.
knows he's
Yeah,
cooked.
he smiles.
Yeah, we're
he
done.
knows that he's messing around, and he like when he says, "I saw Bigfoot," when he sits down, he just kind of like smiles. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, fuck it, I didn't really see Bigfoot.
That's right.
And now we have some orange government guys, some astronauts. They're loading up in a plane. And this is where we first hear some stuff of how are we going to clear those people out of there?
Right.
We don't know exactly what they're talking about, but what they end up saying is, what I need is something so scary it'll clear 300 square miles of every living Christian soul. That word Christian pops out. So I'm still sitting at Devil's Tower, by the way, because they apparently didn't clear the Jews out. We're still stuck there.
But you're sitting there looking at the mapping, and this is the first time you're looking at a detailed map down to the square yard as he wanted. Yeah. And you see that the actual coordinates that they talked about in the previous scene is it goes right to Devil's Tower, and they actually have it down to the spot on Devil's Tower where they're going to build the encampment. Yeah. So yes, they have to clear the area, and this is a great idea. Another well staged plan to clear the area, except for those obsessed, gifted people who were given this vision, who are not going to. Some of them are not going to let anything stand in their way, and they don't. Right.
Yeah. How do you fellas feel about mashed potatoes?
Every single time I eat mashed potatoes,
do you really?
I think of Close Encounters. Every single time. And I know I'm with a kindred spirit when I'm eating mashed potatoes and someone else will say to me, I always think of Close Encounters when I see mashed potatoes.
This scene's amazing. It's so well constructed. All the performances are so good. It's so chaotic. And the reaction shots and watching Dreyfuss's slow processing on the mashed potatoes is... And we got to give Spielberg some real credit on just the fact that this whole idea is crazy that he came up with of... People have this thing inserted in their brain, and it's forcing them to envision this shape, and they are compelled to do so. That is a fascinating movie-making idea.
Now, when we saw the previous scenes where either Richard Dreyfuss or Melinda Dillon were transfixed by the idea of a shape, you would hear that sort of like shaky underscore from John Williams to sort of accentuate the moment a little bit.
Right.
But when we're sitting at this table, Richard Dreyfuss, he's so broken. He's
so
defeated.
Awful.
He's sitting there. He's filled with such deep despair and hopelessness. He has lost his job. He is losing his family, he thinks, losing his mind.
Yeah, I think he is losing his mind.
But this time, when he is shaping the mashed potatoes, you don't hear the music.
Right.
Because maybe he's starting to think, I am a little gone. He's looking around and everyone else is looking at him like, you're crazy. You're losing your fucking mind. And it's a tragic scene almost because of the way everyone's like looking at him like they're ashamed of him. They don't believe in him anymore. Not at all.
Well, there's this moment I love where he kind of tries to joke out of it.
Well, I guess you've noticed something that's a little strange with Dad.
And then, this line really gets me.
It's okay, though. I'm still Dad.
It's okay, I'm still Dad. That, I don't know, maybe because I'm a father now, that it just really affects me. And then he's trying to explain.
I can't describe it. What I'm feeling. What I'm thinking. This means something. It's important.
That to me are the lines of the movie. This means something. It's important. It is what drives him all the way to the end.
Yeah.
But they still don't believe him.
Right. And and what I think about as horror like as that scene is when Barry is taken, this is a different kind of horror. Where you lose, and all of us might have experienced this at some point in our lives. I think every male son has that moment where they look at their father and they see the holes in their father who they once idolized.
Yeah.
And they see the humanity of the father, and it is at first initially very difficult to accept that your father has flaws.
Yeah, he's not perfect.
He's not perfect. And you see that in the older kid, and that'll come out later in the shower scene. Yeah. But you see that in the older kid, the way he's almost crying as he's looking at Richard because he can't figure this. Like, why is my dad being like this?
Well, and the second layer to that is Dreyfuss sees his son see him that way.
That's the horror that I'm talking about.
Is that he knows that I'm falling apart in front of my son, who I'm supposed to stay strong for.
Right.
And then, he works on the mountain a little bit on the train set, and then he runs out into the yard and calls out to the skies.
What is it?
Yeah.
What is it?
Right.
Yeah. It's overwhelming. Like, it was started off fun and cute and playful, but now we were seeing the we're going to see one more deeper level of despair in his life before he really finds his purpose.
Exasperated Dreyfuss is my favorite Dreyfuss.
Oh yeah,
it really is.
He's great.
Same thing in Jaws.
Yeah,
when he's like doing all the stuff when he's like all freaking out about everything. He's just so great when he's like in such madness.
Well, and now it's the middle of the night, and Terry hears strange noises from the bathroom.
Man.
And she tries to open the door, and she's calling out to him. She can hear him. And then she finally gets a letter opener or something, and she manages to get the door open. And there is Richard Dreyfuss in the bath, in the
with
shower.
his clothes on.
With his clothes on.
Fully clothed.
I don't think I know what's happening to me.
And his performance in the scene is... I mean, this is an Oscar-worthy scene, I think.
This is an accomplished stage actor.
Yeah.
Performing a scene with incredible levels of complexity and despair and frustration and an inability to understand what is happening. And this calls for an incredible actor to bring that kind of stuff to life, and he does.
He says, I don't know what's happening to me. And she doesn't know what to do with him.
She
and
doesn't.
he's pleading with her.
It's a tragic scene.
Ronnie.
Yes.
I'm really scared. I want you to help me.
Oh,
Ronnie.
all this bullshit! It's turning his house upside down!
Ronnie, just...
I just hate you this way!
Ronnie,
No!
Ronnie. Just hold me.
No.
Just put your arms around me. It'll really help me. It'll really help me. Please.
Listen!
Ronnie.
Don't you see what's happening? None of our friends call us anymore.
Ronnie.
You're out of work. You don't
Such
care.
a small...
You're wrecking us! You're wrecking us!
Ronnie, just hold on.
No!
Ronnie, I'm really scared. I want you to help me.
Right.
Just hold me. Just put your arms
He
around me.
chases her around the room. Like,
Yeah. And his son is yelling, cry baby,
Oh,
you cry
man.
baby.
Yeah.
And what does what does Ronnie do at this moment? She rejects him.
Yep.
Yeah, she locks herself in the bed. She locks herself in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it is most vulnerable. And this is where, like we talked about, having sympathy for her. I totally have sympathy for her.
Yep.
But not in this scene.
Really?
Has there ever been a scene?
Wow, I do.
When your
Yes, she
spouse
rejects.
says, I need you, I'm scared, you hold me, you hold them.
Yeah, she's like, you're wrecking us. She's like, it goes back to what you were saying.
That's what-
she was concerned about the way it looks. Now, I'm thinking about it right now.
I see your. I absolutely understand your point of view.
That's for better or for worse, man. I mean, this is it. Like, your spouse is on the ground crying, playing "Please Hold Me." You fucking hold them.
Well-
you might deal with other stuff later.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I take this one real seriously.
No, listen, you're
Yes,
right.
you do.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
Okay, I see both your points of views, but I also think they married the wrong people. And I think that's
Sure.
why, in the end, when he ends up with Melora, or possibly ends up with, I'm sorry, not Melora, but Melinda Dillon, they're the right people for each other. And Terry Garr is not. The reason I don't feel I'm not mad at her is because she's not equipped to handle this. She does not have the emotional vocabulary, the emotional knowledge to
I agree.
understand what
That's true.
is going through. So she
I
locks herself
see-
away as a defense mechanism.
I
It's
see
not.
both your points because
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is at the lowest of low. He has hit rock bottom.
Sure.
And he's being rejected by his own wife.
But think about
But
how-
at the same time, to go along with what you said,
Yeah.
you know what? She wasn't the right one. They were not. Their marriage was dissolving anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They were falling apart anyway. Life comes down to a few moments. This was the moment he needed her the most, and she was not there. And I'm trying to think of another Spielberg movie. Has there ever been a Spielberg movie with a scene that topped the intensity of that scene in terms of a family breakdown? Like,
In terms of a family breakdown?
like in terms of like the way the family is absolutely falling apart. It's a devastating scene to see the kids. You cry, baby. You cry,
Yeah.
baby. And then Terry Garr is crying. You know, you're wrecking us. You're wrecking
Yeah.
us. And she rejects him, and he's so desperate and full of such deep, hopeless despair. Has there ever been another scene in a Spielberg movie that showed a family falling apart so devastatingly so as that scene in
can't
Close
think of one.
Encounters.
Yeah, I can't think of one.
I can think
either.
of equally emotional scenes, you know,
Yeah.
like
With a
desperate scenes,
family.
but not a family. Not
Yeah.
I can't think of one.
And listen, broken families have been a staple in Spielberg for his entire directing career.
Which is
Because
ironic.
He comes from a broken
Right,
home,
right.
and that was something that he always related to, and
Mm-hmm.
that was always a personal touch he put into his movies. But I don't think I cannot recall another moment in a Spielberg film where you saw a family like not having already fallen apart,
Right.
but a family falling apart in front of your eyes so drastically and tragically.
Yeah, and I would be inclined to agree with you, Steve, if this was an isolated incident. But for weeks, he's been eroding whatever confidence she had left in the marriage with his behavior, with his inability. And we have the gift as people watching the film to understand why he's falling apart. She doesn't. We see him without her in his dogged pursuit to figure out what's happening. She's done the wifely duties by standing by his side through all this stuff, going out there into that to see the lights again, going to this going to this table to be met with the government. She's done everything she can possibly do to the extent of her limits and her patience to understand this man. This finally breaks her, and I don't feel negative towards her because she is only able to deal with so much, and she has hit her breaking point, and she takes the kids, which are her priority, which should be the priority. She takes her kids and brings them to someplace safe because he is unstable. He is unstable.
Well, there's two things we always have to separate out, which is her decisions totally motivatable and within her character? 100%.
Absolutely.
I totally agree that she is acting in the right way for that character.
Right.
And then you know, for me, you know, sometimes I step back and go, "Is that right?" And I go, "No."
Okay.
That is not.
And
But
that's fair.
It's right for the movie.
Right.
It is right for her character.
Right.
As you say, he wakes up the next day. We hear some Looney Tunes music. He's still.
By the way, he's watching as he's coming to because he
Right.
falls asleep at the dining room table.
Oh, yeah.
Which is where the model is, of
Yeah.
this big shape. We don't know what it is yet. And by the way, hanging above the model, if you look closely, you could see a model of the Starship Enterprise.
right, yes.
And a model of the Klingon ship
Yeah,
from
the Klingon
AMT,
ship. Yes,
painted in silver. So as Roy is coming to, as Richard Dreyfuss is coming to, and his daughter is watching Looney Tunes cartoons, and she goes, "You're not going to yell at me, are you?" And you just see him from the back of his head. He shakes his head. He's like, "No, I'm not going to yell at you." So then he's like, just coming out of what was a horrible night for a fight, and he's rational. He's gained his composure. He starts taking down all the newspaper clippings, and he's like, wow, that was a bad night. What drove us to this point? We almost lost each other for good last night. And this is the last moment where he's really going to be a father.
Mm-hmm.
He's taking down the newspaper clippings.
Yep.
He's throwing everything away.
Yeah.
He's cleaning up the desk. He says, Ronnie, I'm okay. Everything is under control. And he's going to just take this big slob thing across, and he's going to just rip it off and throw it away. And he only rips off the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And he finally sees what he was supposed to have seen all along. And he was almost there.
He was
almost there.
That's so
And
great
then he
about it.
reaches the tipping point
Yeah.
that swings him way back the
Yep.
other way.
Yep.
And then as it finally hits him, this is the shape that I was supposed to be seeing all along. He still doesn't know it's Devil's Tower, by the way.
Nope.
But he knows what it is. And at that moment, the Looney Tunes cartoon in the background, you hear a character go, "Watch the skies."
Oh, I didn't notice that before.
Yes.
Wow.
At that
That's
moment,
awesome.
when you see Dreyfuss with the look of that aha moment, that light has gone off in his head, he gets it. You hear, "Watch the skies," coming from the cartoon in the background. And then, if you thought that Terry Garr wasn't with him before, this is the end of the road.
This is full crazy. This is full crazy.
Yeah.
This is the end of the road.
Outside, pulling up plants,
Yeah.
throwing them in through the window.
He got it.
I got it.
What are you doing?
I figured it out. That's all. Will you just listen?
No.
Ronnie, look. You ever look at something when it's crazy and then you look at it in another way and it's not crazy at
No,
all?
I haven't. No.
Come on, Ronnie. Just listen.
I don't know what
If
you're
you just
doing.
close your eyes for 5 minutes, close your eyes and hold your breath.
No.
Everything will be really pretty.
That's what's so amazing about him in this sequence. He is so rational and calm.
Yeah.
To him, this all makes sense now.
It's such
it
a
all
great.
makes sense.
It all makes
It
sense.
I don't
all
know
makes
if that's
sense.
a great Dreyfuss acting choice or a great Spielberg direction he gave him, but it is brilliant.
Yeah.
This is where you're going to be calm.
Yes.
And everything is okay.
Like I get it. He says I figured it
It's
out.
so
I figured it out.
obvious.
If I don't do this thing I got to do, he's like going on. He's still not making sense, but he's making sense to himself. He gets it. And then it's like kids are helping him throw like the bricks in the windshield.
They're enjoying it.
It was
grabbing the chicken wire or the fence from that poor lady's
Neighbors.
And by the way,
watching.
she was concerned about appearances.
Yeah.
She was concerned about the way that they looked. You're wrecking us. You're wrecking us.
Yeah.
Our neighbor friends don't call us anymore. You lost your job. Now he's taking it outside.
Yeah.
He's grabbing the fencing from where the ducks are, and then all the neighbors are coming out of their homes or they're playing in the street.
Yeah.
And they stop. What is going on with this crazy guy? And she's like, he starts throwing all the dirt in the house, and now she's like, what are you doing? Stop, please stop. And she's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she's like trying to like control the ducks from like leaving the property.
Yeah.
And now at one point after Richard Dreyfuss takes the trash can and away from the garbage guy, and
great scene.
a great scene. And Terry Garr, she just kind of, you see her, she looks up. She looks up like why is she looking up? Like she is looking up. And then, she takes off. Where are you going, Ronnie?
Honey, where are you going?
What?
Where are you going?
Taking the kids to my sister's.
It's crazy. You're not even dressed.
What? He said what?
It's such a great scene because after Terry Garr takes off with the kids, he throws the last of the garbage in the house through the window, climbs up the ladder, goes in through the window, picks up the ladder from inside the house, sticks his head out the window one last time, looks back, looks forth, looks around, puts his head in, shuts the window down, and there's dust coming out of the window.
Yeah.
It is perfect.
Yep.
If I was Spielberg shooting that scene, I would have been like, brilliant.
And we just had this really emotional scene.
Yeah.
And this is continuing the same storyline, but it's really funny.
Yeah.
It is
really,
a
really funny.
really funny scene.
Again, another part where this is a movie. It accentuates my point that this is a film that encompasses all sorts of emotions.
Yeah.
This is a funny scene. You had a terrifying scene. You had a very dramatic scene with the breakdown of the family.
Yeah.
You have the intelligent scenes with the Lacombe and the interpreter and their entourage going to all these places throughout the world, and you have like what's going on with the Kadai scene and all this stuff, and then throughout it all, you have the breakdown of the family unit.
Right.
Again, like you said, John, the scope of this movie is staggering.
So I have a question for both of you. So has Richard Dreyfuss's character been given a bit of amazing truth that he is now obsessed with following to its logical conclusions? Or have the aliens brainwashed him and are controlling him?
Oh,
I don't think they're brainwashed. I don't think he's being brainwashed.
I wouldn't
no.
say brainwashed. I would say that they knew he's the one that's supposed to go on the ship with them. I think they chose him. They gave him the vision, and it was up to him to pursue the vision.
This is not up to him.
But
I don't think this is. I mean, like he says, I don't know what's happening to me.
Right.
He is obsessed and can't control himself.
But once he finds out the purpose, once he realizes what it is, then he's incredibly calm and rational.
But wait a minute, fellas. You're talking.
He's not calm.
He was the one.
He's calm. I don't know if he's rational.
He was the one who made it far enough along.
Right.
Like, I mean, he made it as far as you could possibly go. He was the only one who did. But if he didn't, someone else who had gotten the vision might have been the one. Like Melinda Dillon could easily have been the one to be taken aboard the spaceship. It just happened to be Dreyfuss. I mean, it had to be somebody who was given the vision.
Right.
And because of all the obstacles that had to be overcome to get to that point, Dreyfuss was the smartest one to do it. I mean, Melinda Dillon had the same vision. She's watching, she has all her pictures.
Yeah, the drawings and stuff.
All the drawings on the wall, and she figured it out.
Yeah.
I'm just going to lose the top half of this thing, and it's going to look more like the vision.
Right.
She's watching the news.
Right.
She's watching the news where the chemical spill has evacuated Devil's Tower.
Right.
And she's looking with all her pictures, and she's staying in some seedy motel, and because she's looking for her son.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my God, that's it.
Well,
That's where
her
I gotta
motivation makes so she's looking for her son,
Right.
And the question is, and this is why I just think about it, is like, I believe that Spielberg's intention is that these aliens are good guys. I think that's clearly what this movie is
Absolutely.
about. Almost all evidence to the contrary. You know?
Right.
I mean, like, they kidnap a kid, they grab a bunch of pilots from 40 years ago, they are abducting people, and now it's like they put the world's most powerful earworm into these people's brains.
Great point.
That they cannot I cannot stop thinking about this thing, and I am drawn. This is why I go is like, yes, he's acting calm, and yes, he is acting rational in a certain sense, but is he in control of himself?
Yeah.
Like, would rational Richard Dreyfuss from a month earlier do these things? And I think the answer is no. And it's like, this is the nature. This is what I kept thinking about watching the movie. What's really happening here? And I don't think we actually get to know what has just occurred.
Right.
We see a whole bunch of stuff happen that's fascinating. So as we say, he's gone back in through the window, and when we come back, he has built Devil's Tower in his house.
Yeah, I got just one like it in my living room.
I mean, that shot is amazing.
It's the greatest science experiment I've ever seen, or the largest science experiment I've ever seen.
So the irony here is that in an effort to keep everyone away from Devil's Tower, the government, the government covert officials who orchestrated the scheme to evacuate everybody, they wound up inviting the people who were invited in the first place to go there.
They advertised it.
They advertised it. Hey, everyone who's been affected, come on down. This is what you're looking for. It's Devil's Tower in Wyoming.
Yeah. Right. Dreyfuss jumps in his station wagon and heads off.
Yeah, he heads off.
Well, no, I don't want to skip over this part which is I love the way that Spielberg shot it, messing with the audience, where you see what he's supposed to be seeing on the TV, but he keeps missing it the whole time because he's trying to figure out.
He's on the phone.
Yeah, because he's on the phone and he keeps swinging around because he's trying to bring her back, he's trying to win her back or whatever with Ronnie, and then he's like doing the thing. He's just, I can't, and then he sees it in passing, like we do sometimes.
Yeah, you're like, the news broadcast is almost over. And you're like, oh my God, he's going to miss it.
Yes. Yes. And
Great
then he
point.
catches it. And when he catches it, you're like, oh, because you yourself have had that experience where you're like ignoring something for a while, and then all of a sudden it hits you and you see in the corner, you're like, oh shit, I didn't see that before.
And
like
now,
that red light or whatever that you were talking about earlier.
And that is the first time in the musical score that you hear a tonally different version of the score from everything that preceded it.
Yeah.
It's like the score itself. North
south wind. Army chemical engineers and the Wyoming National Guard are making every effort to
that's the motif for Devil's Tower.
Yeah.
And that is something that we hear a lot throughout the rest of the film, or at least up until the light show begins at the very end.
No, I have a question.
Well, and when you hear that change in the score, you get just a classically Spielbergian shot of the foreground Devil's Tower and the TV, and Richard Dreyfuss and rising up to reveal the full Devil's Tower model behind him. It's a great shot.
Yes. Now I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Both. As he's driving, he knows there's a chemical spill. Does he know that it's bullshit? Because he drives to Devil's Tower. He's heard the news reports, right? Isn't that where he's going? Devil's Tower?
He's going to Devil's Tower. He's heard the news reports.
So why is he going?
But so what you're saying is,
does he know that the government is hiding this and the blah blah blah?
You're asking if is he aware at this point that this is all a cover up?
And the reason I ask is because we see the soldiers and the helicopters and the police show up the second time they try to see the UFOs on the street, on the road. Does he know the government is now part? And having sat in on the government press conference and see them lie, does he go there knowing that they're lying about the chemicals?
Well, I think at this point
Or
when
does it not
he's
matter?
driving towards Devil's Tower. I mean, first of all, that's a hell of a point, and that's a valid one. But he's still far enough away where if there was a chemical spill and he believed that was the reason for the evacuation, he was still far enough away where it would not affect him, because by the time he gets to a point and where he can't go any further because the soldiers are there, and he's wearing the mask initially at first, and it isn't until he's on the helicopter being evacuated away when he takes the chance. Like, I think that's when it hits him that this is all a cover up. That this is fake. Fake news.
He doesn't.
Fake news.
Fake news. He doesn't put on the mask for a while. He doesn't put on the mask until he's with Jillian. I think this relates to the question I was asking, because it's part of it is he in his right mind? Because to me, he knows he has to go to that place.
Yes, he does.
He has to go to that place. Right. He's not thinking strategically or what is exact. He's like, well, I have to be there because this means something.
Yeah.
This is important. I must be there. I think that's the only thing he's thinking.
Okay.
I have to go.
He's just obsessed.
Well, I love the scene when he gets to the train station.
Oh, yeah.
And this is a great, well-crafted scene because everyone is, it's so crowded. Everyone is panicking to get out of there. And you have the opportunists who are selling gas masks.
Yeah, of course.
Even my dog has a gas mask. And they're selling the birds so you can see if the gas is affecting them.
All good little details.
And then what's so great about that scene is when Richard Dreyfuss and Melinda Dillon see each other and they run towards each other. And it's sort of like, it's a little bit from a distance. And you see them, there's no music. It's only the crowds. And they run towards each other and they hug each other. Like really embrace each other. And you see them talking to each other, but you don't know what they're saying. You can't hear what they're saying. But they're so relieved. They're like, oh my God, thank God I found you. It's a beautiful moment that you don't hear a bit of dialogue. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the soldier that is trying to stop, saying, no, you're going the wrong way, or trying to tell her to go back to the train, is that Carl Weathers?
It is.
I knew it.
It is Carl Weathers.
I knew it!
And it was the only reason I know this is because I didn't actually see it. I didn't notice it. And then the credits are going by, and I just happened, sometimes a name pops out, and I'm like, Carl Weathers, and I did a Google search and to look at the picture. Yes, that is Carl Weathers. And by the way, Lance Henriksen is in India.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He's
Lance
standing there. He's one of Lacomb's henchmen.
Yeah.
Or his bodyguard.
Yeah.
So okay. So then you get to they're back in there. They're both in the car now.
Yep.
By the way, I don't know if I'm wrong on this, but that scene at the train station affects me when I see it. Like she sees him first. She calls for him. Oh, right. But it feels like almost when you see scenes at train stations, a lot of people getting ushered on trains. It has a Holocaust vibe to it. And so for me, in that,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
When I watched it this time, it really struck me. Now Stephen is Jewish, and so maybe this is something, maybe even unconscious that he did.
Sure.
But for me, that's what it felt like to me. The government is lying to them, ushering them onto trains to get them out of a location.
Wow.
And who knows where they're taking them.
It does have a Holocaust vibe to it.
These two, against the soldiers' wishes and pushing away, find each other, like this solace or this connection. Do you know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And this peace, and then they run off against. It's almost like and then it becomes like this teenage love story where they're running against the wind, against these people who are trying to stop them from getting to where they're going to consummate their love, even though they're not consummating their love, they're going for different purposes. But it feels almost like you're all of a sudden on this. And remember, Cactus Flower is like his first film, which is about with Goldie Hawn and William Atherton running off into the car, like in the car, running away, being chased. So there's like these elements that are here throughout his movies that you can sense, from his own personal stuff. So the more that's what struck me about the film and I don't mean to have a diatribe now in the middle of this episode, but for me, watching the film this time, for whatever reason, I felt ashamed that I had never gotten it before. Like really,
I
never thought of it until you just said it.
You just said it.
I mean the overall film.
Oh yeah.
And so all these things that I'm seeing now as a more mature cinephile, as a person who pays more attention to things, for me, I felt ashamed as a cinephile because I should have been able to see all this already. But sometimes you see things when you're supposed to, so I take solace in that. But watching it, I almost felt like if I ever see Steven Spielberg again, ever in my life, I want to walk up to him and just say, I'm very sorry for not getting Close Encounters of the Third Kind the first few times I saw it, because I thought it was a frivolous film about a guy who's obsessed about a mountain. And this is about so much more. And in that scene, you see that. You see that. They run to each other, find the connection. And it's, and sometimes you have to live a life to get those moments,
That you just blew my mind.
Well,
I never thought of it that way,
No, I
but
didn't
I
either.
see your point completely.
It's so
absolutely
it's
completely
so unsettling, So anyway.
Okay, so now
we're in the car.
Yes.
And they're heading off. And now we do hear that Dreyfuss does believe that this thing is fake. We do drive by animals that are. So this is a small question, but are they dead or asleep?
Asleep.
Okay. He says they're asleep. This is just something I was thinking about is if I was going to scam a whole bunch of people that nerve gas was loose, I would have to kill the animals. Because if everybody comes back eventually and the cows are all walking around, then they're going to go, wait, that couldn't have been nerve gas. It makes much more sense to kill all the animals, which relates later on because he says we're going to dust him with the stuff that we used on all the animals. It'll just put them to sleep. And I was wondering if he was
6 hours later with a hell of a headache.
With a hell of a headache. And I was like, wait, is he lying? Did Larry just get killed? It's just something I was wondering about.
Interesting. I think that they put him to sleep. I don't think they would go that far.
Yeah.
But you're right about the cows thing. You're right about, but we don't even get to that point.
But
in the movie,
we don't get involved. It's a small question.
But it's a fair
they're
question.
in the car, and I love the moment where Dreyfuss is like, I'm convinced that this is fake. And what is the next thing he does?
They put on the mask.
They put on the mask. That is very smart.
And she has a bird.
And she has
one of those birds because she's bought it.
And then as they drive and they go away from the roadblock and they go off-road and down and over this thing and over that thing, and then we have the moment where they get out of the car.
But you had the moment where they stop the car.
Yeah.
You had the moment where they stop the car. They see it before we see it.
Yep.
They get out, they climb to the top of the hill, and as they are climbing, the music builds and builds, and the camera pans up higher and higher, and there, clear as day, you are there. There it is. Devil's Tower. They are seeing it with the naked eye. I can't believe it's real. And they're staring at it. And this time, the groundswell is much more dramatic, much more effective. And here's a little backstory. On April 2nd, 2013, I made a pilgrimage. I made my pilgrimage to Devil's Tower. And I'm like, I have to do this. It's not easy to get to.
Yeah.
You have to fly into Grand Rapids and then drive 2 hours to Wyoming, to Devil's Tower.
Wow.
So I went, and it was off season. It wasn't during a holiday. And when I was driving on the interstate, I think it was Interstate 80, when I was driving towards Wyoming, I was the only car on the road. Wow. And living in LA, you never get that.
Yeah.
And I got a little spooked because I'd never been, not even, I grew up in Philly and I was living in New York. I'd never.
You're not a country boy.
Not a country boy at all. And I did get a little spooked, but I brought with me the soundtrack CD to Close Encounters. So when I got off the freeway and I got on the back road, which is about a 30-minute drive to Devil's Tower from the interstate to the actual Devil's Tower, I put on the soundtrack to Close Encounters. So I'm driving up and down the hills, going around, and I'm at that point in the score, in the soundtrack, when Richard Dreyfuss and Melinda Dillon are driving down right as they get to that point. And I'm driving over a hill. And as I'm driving over this hill, driving up this hill, the music is building to the point where they're walking to the top of the hill. And then I get to the top of the hill. And just at that moment in the film, when they get to the top of the hill and see Devil's Tower in the distance, I see Devil's Tower. It wasn't as big as it was in the movie. But I see Devil's Tower and I hear... and I got so overwhelmed with emotion, I had to pull over. Wow. I had to stop the car. Yeah. I got out, and it was in the distance, but it was clearly Devil's Tower. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm really here.
Yeah.
And as I was driving closer and closer, like I kept getting out of my car and taking pictures. And again, it was an off season, so there was like nobody around. Right. And the love I have for this film, for me going to Devil's Tower, was like I'm also a massive Beatles fan, was like going to Liverpool.
Sure.
It was something I probably will never do again. So I was in the moment every step of the way. And to be at Devil's Tower and to see it with my own eyes like that, I really felt like what these characters must have been thinking, although they have different motivations.
Right.
You know, my motivation because I love the movie, theirs is because they are in the movie.
Right.
But I felt like I'm never going to forget this moment, you know, and just I was listening to the score, and right on cue, when you see the big reveal of Devil's Tower in the film, is when I had my own personal reveal with my own eyes of seeing it in the distance. Yeah. It was a beautiful thing. I mean, like it was a religious experience in every sense of the word.
Wow.
Now, as you were driving towards Devil's Tower, did you get run off the road by a bunch of army guys who pulled you out of the out of your
waiting.
car?
I mean, I was like really like I wonder, you know, trying to imagine what that must have been like for them filming that.
Yeah.
You know, because like all the different angles around Devil's Tower, you know, I remember what they were filming at that point from this particular angle of the movie.
Of course.
So to actually be there, and you know, I was there by myself, and no one else was around. And again, you know, it would have been great if, like, you know, I was with someone,
right?
You know, but it was just, I mean, what other film other than Paul?
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
What other film uses Devil's Tower so perfectly than Close Encounters?
Yeah. So they get pulled over and grabbed, and then we have one of the strangest moments, I think, in the film, which is they're pulling them out of the car, and the birds are dead. Mm-hmm. Why are the birds dead?
Why are the birds dead?
No, I don't know.
Was it temporary nerve gas just to kill? You know, not to kill. Excuse me, to put to sleep. You know, just to ward off the looky-loos.
Yeah, maybe.
Like they were.
I think you're right. So if they had not put on gas masks, when they said they didn't have to put on gas masks, they would have gone to sleep.
Right. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or but they would have gone to sleep. But for like if other people, right, because they were everyone else, all the officials, all the soldiers, they were all wearing gas masks because at that point they had to just to ward off the temporary nerve gas. Right. Not the deadly gas that they were depicting on the news.
Right.
But now this is when you have your meeting with Richard Dreyfuss. Like all the moving parts in this movie, they're just coming together a little bit more. All this time you've had this whole separate story going on with with Francois Truffaut and Bob Balaban. Now you're seeing your antagonists face to face.
Yeah.
There's no protagonist, or the protagonist, meaning face.
There are really no bad guys.
There's no way.
This is not a bad guy movie,
right?
Except for the aliens who are bad guys. And we have this great conversation. I love that they're asking, "Are you an artist? Do you hear ringing in your ears?
Avez-vous des maux de tête, des migraines?
Having headaches, migraines.
Yeah. Irritation des yeux et du sinus?
An irritation in your eyes and your sinuses.
Yeah. Des démangeaisons, des allergies?
You have hives? You have allergies?
Des brûlures sur le visage et sur le corps?
You're burning on your face and on your body?
Yes. Who are you people?
Look at this.
Yeah, I got one just like it in my living room. Who are you people?
Je pensais...
Oui, tu connais.
Oui, connais.
Monsieur Neri, please, one more question. N'avez-vous pas fait récemment une rencontre?
Have you recently had a close encounter?
Une rencontre plutôt inhabituelle?
A close encounter with something very unusual.
Who are you people?
Like it hits him that this is bigger than him.
Yeah.
This is really, I mean, this is not some like government thing. Like he was drawn here for a reason, and they know it.
Because clearly he's not the first.
Right.
Yeah. And so they are as curious about him as he is about them. Did you feel compelled to be here? What did you expect to find? I love what he says.
An answer. That's not crazy, is it?
And he's screaming, how do I know so much detail about this place? I've never been here.
Yeah.
If this is just nerve gas, how come I know everything in such detail? I've never been here before. How come I know so much? What the hell is going on around here? Who the hell are you people?
Yeah, it's
I also
great.
love the line he shows in the pictures. He goes, "Yeah, I got just one like it in my living room."
Yeah. But they take him out, they put gas mask on him, and they put him in a helicopter with a bunch of other people. And again, this is Spielberg's great craft. The looks exchange between the people in the gas masks, we know.
Yeah.
We know there could be another Close Encounter story with any one of them on their journey of how they got here.
And they're all looking at each other. They're all smiling like, I know why you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if
We
you
got
think you're
busted, too.
crazy, and then you discover all these other people who've experienced the same thing, that means you're not crazy.
Right.
I mean, that's...
Or at
That's a
least as
big
crazy
thing.
as them.
Right.
So there's a kinship.
Exactly.
Jillian is on the helicopter as well.
She
on
is.
the far
On
end.
the other end.
On the other end. And Truffaut is getting dressed down by the army. And they are asking, why'd you bring these people here? And I love the line where he says, even they do not know why.
Yeah.
Like, this is because he's the scientist. He's the person interested in trying to figure out to solve the mystery.
Yeah.
And they are as much a piece of the mystery as the sounds or the lights or the sunburn or the ships or the airplanes or anything else.
Yeah.
They're just
They
another piece.
belong here more than we.
More than we. Apparently,
More than we.
apparently Truffaut was very, very stressed out about the lines in English.
Of course.
And he did I'm sure you've done the actor thing, and maybe you've done this too, of repeating a line over and over. You only got one line. And of course, he's on this shoot for months trying to say the line right. And at one point, there was a line he really, really hated. And then Spielberg, I think it's the Einstein was right. That was supposed to be a Truffaut line. And Spielberg said, I'm going to have this guy do it. And here's this line he hated and didn't think he could say. And then he was pissed off they had given it to somebody else. And he went, now I know how it feels to be an actor.
Einstein was right. Einstein was probably one of them.
Yeah. That's
Such a great line.
Dreyfuss takes off his mask.
Oh, right. Now the big run for the hills.
In an act of rebellion.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's a scary moment because he doesn't know
Right.
that he ain't going to die.
Right.
Those birds died, as far as he knows. And then Jillian takes off her mask, and some other guy takes off their mask.
Yeah,
and
who's still working,
run.
or who I think recently passed. That guy was a
did he?
great character actor as well.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
years.
He was in Witness.
Yes, he was in Witness.
Oh, yeah.
He always plays
yeah.
like villains or judges or things like that. Yeah.
And they run, and Truffaut watches them run.
Yeah.
I love
He
that.
lets them run.
He lets
He
them
doesn't
run.
stop them.
Yeah.
He smiles. He smiles because they belong here more than we.
Yep. Yep.
And then as they're running up the hill, it's Jillian, Roy, and Larry. The character's name is Larry.
I love Larry.
And as they're running up the hill, William's score, it's like liberating.
Yeah.
It's a great
Exciting.
it's like it's an exciting, it's rousing.
Yeah.
It's a rousing moment that they are free.
Larry, how you doing? I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
And this is what I would say, this is the only adventure moment in the whole film.
Yeah.
That's why that was the weird reaction I had. Is like, oh, it's not like Star Wars or Jaws or Raiders or any of these movies of this era. This is not an adventure.
No.
There's a very brief moment right here where they're running, that helicopter's coming, they got to hide.
Well, there's no joy in it until this moment when they're running from the government, which is why I think this cue matches in Jaws when they finally
go out to sea.
When they're chasing the shark,
right?
And they're on the ship, and they go like that is because they're excited that they might catch the shark. They believe they can kill the shark, and they're excited they're going to catch the shark, and they're on the adventure. And the same thing when they're running up the mountain. It's a very similar cue.
Yeah. And Larry's falling behind.
Never should have given up jogging.
Yeah, exactly. They're hiding from the helicopter. Larry's still falling behind. He kind of gives up.
Yeah,
he
gives
dusted
up.
or gassed.
He's like, Los Angeles!
Yeah.
Hitchhiking in Los Angeles.
So they're running from the helicopters, and there's this great moment where Dreyfuss says, no, we're going to go in there. There's a little spot behind that.
Oh, yeah.
And she goes, well, I didn't know that. And he said, well, that's why you should sculpt.
Yeah.
And I always love that. Yeah, try sculpting.
That's a great moment.
That little banter, yeah.
But now this moment
so great.
between Roy and Jillian, where now it's gotten quite dark, and the silhouette of Devil's Tower, and you see the lights coming from the other side.
Yeah.
You see the spotlights peering through to the other side. What's on the other side? What is on the other side? And Jillian's at the top, and Roy he's exhausted. And he keeps sliding back down the hill, but the helicopter's coming with the nerve gas, and he gives one last try, and she grabs his hand, pulls him over, the helicopter flies by, And now, again, the score is tonally different.
Yeah.
And now, from this point, the movie becomes quite different in itself.
Yeah.
And they're both looking at what's on the other side of Devil's Tower. Do you see that? Yes. Good. And now you see the encampment. You see this encampment. This is why they got rid of everybody. This is why they spooked everybody away. And you hear the musical score, and they're getting their acts together. And they're turning on all the lights. They're bringing the lights down 60%. And Roy and Jillian are just sitting there hiding behind the rocks, just looking down. We're the only ones who know about this.
Yeah.
And then, this is not a drill. And he goes, watch the skies. Again, second time in the film, you'll hear the phrase, watch the skies. This one's in the actual context of the movie. The announcer, we have some activity coming out by the north by northwest. You see this little light show. And you see the lights in the sky. If you notice, the lights are flying around and they all stop to form the Big Dipper. And Roy laughs at it, and it's just this little light show, and that could have been it. But then they had their backs to a UFO that's flying up right over their shoulders.
Right.
And again, the score from this point on, you talk about it being his opera, John Williams' opera. It is among the most beautiful pieces John Williams has ever scored in any of his movies. And when the three of them fly over and they're situated right in the middle of the encampment, and now they get their acts together for the pop tones. And it starts off very slow. Yeah, they try it once. Yeah. It's very, very slow. It takes like a minute for them to do it at first pass. Nothing at all. And then they do it again, and they do it again. They change the tone a little bit. They do it a little faster, and the tone just goes right out there. And he's like, let's go. And then, boom, 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 boom. I mean, it's so sublime. It is like, this is the moment where all the stuff about first contact, you don't know what the aliens are. They abducted a kid. You don't know. You think maybe they're friendly. You don't know. But this is where the moment of first contact was done in a way that has never been done before in film. Not even The Day the Earth Stood Still, because that was a warning. I mean, this is something so different from any depiction of first contact that we've ever seen in movies. And I don't think we saw it again really until Arrival.
I agree with you 1,000%. It's one of the reasons I enjoyed Arrival so much, because there was something inside me that knew this already, knew this before, had seen this before, and the way it was done in that film, the reverence they had is so similar to the reverence they have for the aliens.
Absolutely.
And trying to communicate with the aliens. And by the way, I want to say one thing here. He is more affectionate with Jillian through that entire run up the mountain than he ever is with Terry Garr throughout the whole movie.
That's a great point.
I agree. You're right.
Picks her up, he holds her hand, he protects her, he keeps her, and she helps him. Obviously, when he's sliding down, she helps him. But there's more affection here than he ever had with Terry, and it's interesting to watch. It's growing without them having to make a big deal out of it.
Well,
And they're
it's
also
happening organically.
haven't had any romance. It is a genuine affection that they have for each other.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lightness to Dreyfuss's character.
Yes.
Now
Because
that
he has
once he finally got in that car and started heading to Devil's Tower, he is now like, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing.
And now you can believe why this guy would be someone you could marry or be with or whatever. He has a lightness to a joy, to almost a joy and a pursuit and a drive.
One of the things I love is watching the scientists and the engineers that they have obviously been planning for this moment for years. They have the cameras, they have the computers, they've built this huge, which I love, this visual metaphor for the notes, this huge multicolored screen.
Right.
And there was something, and this communication is now starting to happen musically. What a great concept for first contact. It's like, this is Spielberg's genius. Like, who would come up with this idea rather than it's not meeting face to face, it's not through language, it is just through music. And there was something I saw years and years ago that I've never forgotten, which is when Steven Spielberg was on Inside the Actors Studio, and James Lipton is talking to him about this moment, and he said to him, "Well, you came from divorced parents." And he said, "Yeah." And he said to him, "What did your mother do?" And he says, "Oh, my mother was a pianist."
Yes.
"What did your father do?" "He was an engineer."
Yep.
And Lipton said to him, "And in this moment, in Close Encounters, you brought together engineering and music. And that is the way the aliens first communicated with the human race."
Right.
Wow.
Yep.
What was most amazing, if you watch this moment, I'm sure it's on YouTube, Spielberg, that had never occurred to him, that he was having his parents speak together in this moment.
Yep. And my film professor taught us that.
Wow.
He knew and when I saw it on Lipton, I was like, yep. And so when I saw Spielberg be surprised by it, it blew my mind. Because my film professor told us that too. And that's the reason why Spielberg uses suns and bright lights in his motifs. Like, they're always going towards something bright. It is for him a reflection of something better than the broken home that he had. It is always that symbol of something brighter, something better. And so all of his films almost have that kind of thing. And with this, there's a lot. The musical motifs are very important throughout his movies because of the influence of his mom. You bring up the Beatles. Paul's father was a composer.
Right.
So there's this thing that drives them. John's mother was a guitarist. John's mother was a musician. There's things that drive you with music that are without words. And this makes so much sense. And I love that you brought that up, Steve, because I was going to mention it later. And so I love that you brought it up because it's absolutely perfect. And it's true. And you talked about this being a very personal film for him being brought out to see the meteors. This is everything, all coming together full circle.
Mind is blown. My mind is blown.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's interesting. It's always interesting to me that when an artist doesn't even fully understand their art. And the thing is Richard Dreyfuss doesn't understand what he's trying to create.
Sure.
And throughout this film, if you listen to Steven Spielberg, there's a lot of trying stuff.
Good point.
He doesn't know why he's doing what he's doing.
Right.
We don't know as artists. That's sometimes the best stuff. When you are compelled. Well,
You're too close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't see it.
You can't see. Yeah. It's a fascinating thing. And so now it's finally coming together, and we have Jillian and Roy watch, and they know the music too. They understand sort of what's happening.
And she's singing along.
Yeah.
She's singing along. She goes, "I know that." Like, it's all coming together. It's like this. It goes from you're bringing just this global event and this personal event, and it's all coming together in one moment of this movie.
And it's non-intellectual. We just feel it. They feel, yes, this is right.
Yeah.
What it means and what these aliens are and what they're doing, we don't know.
Right.
We just know that, yes. We know the yes of this moment.
Yep.
And then the music goes faster, and we're playing music and they're playing music, and then everyone claps and the ships go away.
It's such a great scene, the orchestra of it all, right?
Yeah.
And then they go away, yeah.
And Truffaut looks out, and Dreyfuss and Jillian, they see the clouds. And the clouds start to form those shapes.
It's very ominous, though.
It is.
Right?
It's something
It's
big
ominous.
is coming.
It's building. It's swirling.
Yeah.
And then, this time, it's a rousing sort of thing.
Yeah.
All the ships are coming around all over the place, and it's great and it's exciting, and people are taking pictures with their little cameras on top of all these other cameras, and it's a glorious moment. It's a glorious moment.
Yeah.
And then, you hear people on the radio, "That was fantastic."
Yeah.
And then those ships go away. Right. And everyone thinks,
and there's even a kind of big ship that hovers over them.
Yeah,
and you
yeah,
go like, "Oh wow, there's the big one."
Right.
But that's not really the big one.
That's not the big one.
This has all been the prologue. This has all been the appetizer for the main course.
Yeah.
And this time, there's no musical score. When the rumbling.
Before that, there's a moment where Dreyfuss wants to go down to see better.
Yes.
Okay. All right. While all the ships are flying around.
Yeah.
Or Dreyfuss says, "You want to see better?" And she goes, "I can see fine." And he goes, "We can't stay here." She goes, "I can."
Yeah.
And this is where maybe she wouldn't have gone. If she was the chosen one, she wouldn't have gone because she didn't have Barry.
Yep.
But he didn't.
Yep.
And he says, I can't stay here. She's like, I know. Now, here's at that moment when they just like look at each other and they just have this tender kiss.
Mm-hmm.
It is a beautiful moment that they. This is another part of the film that gets to me.
Yeah.
Because like, you know, he's excited. He wants to go down. She doesn't because her son's not with him.
Mm-hmm.
And she lets him go.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike
Terry
Garr.
Yeah, right. She supports him. She understands him.
She gets it.
Right.
And instead of being, okay, go ahead, good luck, they give each other a really sweet, loving kiss goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's when, you know, you get to, you know, the piece de resistance.
She understands his purpose is different than hers. Hers is just to get her son back. His is to discover why.
Right.
Yep.
He wants it all.
He wants it all.
And she just wants her son back.
Yeah.
He comes down. There's kind of a moment of silence. You always want to build expectation, and we certainly have in our 2+ hours of this podcast so far. Because now the moment has come. The mothership. And it's important, by the way, that the mothership, I think, rises from below.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get the sense of scale, and it's unexpected. And the design of this thing is
amazing.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
And just also, like, when you see it, it's rising low from behind Devil's Tower, and it is so much bigger than Devil's Tower.
Yeah, it is.
It's a very
huge.
interesting staging of the shot because it's not coming down. It's rising above Devil's Tower, and you're seeing Devil's Tower, which is already massive.
Yeah.
But you're seeing the mothership behind it, which is much, much bigger. And then everyone's looking up, and you hear the rumbling from the mothership, and then everyone's looking up, and one of the entourage guys is like, you hear him just go, "Oh my God!" It's like, "Oh my God!" Like even he was thrown.
Yeah.
And then the music does start to swell, and then when you see the mother flip over, the reveal of the mothership in all its glory, going from upside down to right side up, and then like they're all taking their places again, and they're bringing the keyboards up close. This time the motif sounds quite different, and it's the familiar motif that we've heard spoofed in like Moonraker, other films, and this is the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah. Two things about the mothership. One thing about the mothership is it comes from two design elements that Spielberg saw. The first is he was driving one night and he saw this oil refinery. And he said, I want that oil refinery to be part of the mothership. And that's the top side. That's the bottom that becomes the top. And the other thing is he's up in the mountains in the Hollywood Hills and he looks out over the San Fernando Valley at night and sees the grid of orange and yellow and white lights. And he goes, that's the bottom of the mothership. And if you look at it, it looks like a map.
Yeah.
You know, it's that weird lit grid. And of course, McQuarrie goes, okay, and that's what he draws. One other thing you could see is as it flips over, there is a little R2-D2 hanging from the base of the one spot of the mothership.
Right, yeah.
So this came out in 77.
Yeah.
77, yeah.
Do you think
6 months after Star Wars?
That's interesting. So the R2-D2 is there, but do you think Spielberg was fucking with Lucas by having that Enterprise and the Klingon ship?
Because of Star Wars.
I was wondering if he was.
I hope so.
I was a little dig at Lucas.
I hope so.
Just a little dig at Lucas, just to mess with him.
Everyone puts on sunglasses. They play the 5 tones. There's a long pause, and then there's strange deep notes from the mothership.
I love that.
Yeah. And then when they start playing the first 3 tones again, and the alien plays the last 2, and glass shatters out of that tower. Great. It's awesome. Yeah. They were running out of money. Spielberg paid for that glass. He said he wanted it so much, and it was like 5 sheets of sugar glass because he might have to do multiple takes, and so he just paid for it out of his pocket. That's worth it.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is just this musical improv moment.
Amazing.
Yeah. We don't know what this is. But it's amazing.
Yeah.
So then the conversation's going. It's like playful, and then it stops. It's like, did I say something wrong?
Right.
But then the doors open, and the light from the doors, and everybody's freaking out, like, oh shit. And that's when you see a silhouette of something coming out, of a few things coming out, and they're people.
Yep.
And this bookends the movie. The beginning, we saw the planes.
Yes.
Now we see the pilots, and they're bewildered. They're in a daze.
Yeah.
And they have no idea where they are. They have no idea what these people are wearing, what the technology is that they are seeing. But they see people, most likely Americans, and they introduce themselves from Flight 19.
Yeah.
Good to have you back, soldier.
Yeah.
And they're slowly, one by one, saying their names, and they're taping off the names on a missing list. That's when the two guys say, Einstein was right. They haven't even aged. Einstein was probably one of them. And it's a really nice. You see a little dog come sliding down the mothership ramp, and then you see. I mean, this is another just great moment of Melinda Dillon's acting.
Yeah.
When she sees Barry.
Yeah.
When she sees him, and she just like pushes everyone out of the way, and she grabs him, and you know the way that they hug. She hugs her mother, single mother holding her son,
her lost son,
her lost son.
Yeah,
like the way they are reunited, and she's so motherly and nurturing. You know, did you see me running up after you? You know, I was running after you. I mean, it's such a beautiful moment. And then Richard Dreyfuss is standing there. He's not scared at all. You can't get him closer to the mothership at this point, or to the entrance to the mothership. He just wants to go in.
Yeah.
And that's when Lacombe Truffaut says to him,
Monsieur Nery, I envy you.
He did all this, Truffaut did all this orchestrating.
Yep.
But he was chosen. He has all his astronauts ready to go, but he was chosen. Now the doors open, they open again. This time a different silhouette comes out. And this is a silhouette of something that looks very, very different and is both scary and beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
It is scary, and that's partly is because of John Williams' score and the way the aliens like it crouch down, peeking out, and then the way it stands upright and raises its arms.
Its long arms.
It's very long arms, and then all the smaller aliens come out.
I think the height of Spielberg's craziness and his ability to just follow an idea was how he figured out how to do the aliens. His first idea for the aliens was to put an orangutan in a suit, which they did and did screen tests of. It didn't go well.
No, I'm sure not.
So that was not a good idea. Then they did a whole bunch of puppet design, but the puppets, they just didn't have the line removal, and with all of the really complicated lighting schematics, it just lit up the lights. And then what they did, which we use in the film, is those are little girls in most of the alien suits. And his feeling was that little girls move differently from little boys, and that would help. But then what he did is that he did this whole thing that's not in the movie, which is that he said, I want those aliens to be super fast. So what he did was he did all this, brought in a choreographer with all these little girls, and they worked for a month on all these very, very fast movements.
Yeah.
Very, very fast choreography. And then he also hired a bunch of mimes who could walk in slow motion and dress them as the scientists and choreographed a scene where the mimes are moving in slow motion and the little girl dressed as aliens are moving in super fast choreography. And then he filmed it with the camera slowed way down so then he could speed it up so that the mimes would now be walking at normal speed and the little girls would be moving super, super fast. And in this sequence, he had Richard Dreyfuss on a wire and floated up into the sky, and they shot all this stuff and none of it worked.
Oh my goodness! Wow,
isn't that just crazy?
You got to try things.
Well, it's just if you listen to Spielberg talk at this era,
Yeah.
it's just like I had this idea, and so they did it. I had this idea, and so they did it. There's
That's
something.
why the budget kept going up. By the
It
way,
did. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the government officials come up to Richard Dreyfuss. Can we have a word with you? What kind of blood type do you have?
Yeah.
Do you have any a history of this disease in your family? I have the slightest idea. And at that same moment, the trained astronauts in their red uniforms are sitting there being blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's a great little touch.
They're about to go up. Yeah.
They're about to go up, but there's one problem. They were not chosen.
Yep.
Then there's this long line of astronauts with their sunglasses on, being marched. They're marching, and they're being very professional. But there's Richard Dreyfuss at the end. He's still got a scruff going, and he's all excited. And he's at the end of the line. I love this. He's at the end of the line, and the aliens go right past all the astronauts and go right to him at the end of the line, take him by the hands. There's a bunch of them circling around him, and they're leading him in. He's the only one who made it. It's such a beautiful moment when he's taken in, and the main alien is facing Lacombe and the interpreter, and sticks out its hand and does the signal, and they do it back, and they're smiling at each other, and it's
and Roy's last kind of backlit smile as he looks out
one last time
is it's a remarkable moment in film.
And he sees Jillian. They have they
smile at each other.
Because she's happy
for him
that he's going to finally get what he's been looking for, right? He's finally going to go inside, and he is happy as hell to be going. No matter where he's going to go, who knows?
Who knows where he's going? He just wasn't. It wasn't just that he wasn't where he should be with his family.
Right.
He wasn't. He didn't fit on the planet.
Yeah. This is what I mean is why the film is so relatable in 2017 now, because I think a lot of us don't feel like we fit within the world itself as it's constructed anymore.
Sad but true.
We seek solace someplace else. We seek it in our superhero films. We seek it in our D&D that's come back. We seek it in World of Warcraft. We seek it in other areas that are not the planet. And whether they're fictionalized or video games or movies, we seek solace to disappear in there rather than to exist on the planet now because we just feel out of place. A lot of us do, and I think that's what really spawned the nerd and geek culture to explode as much as it has over the last couple of decades. It's just that desire, that feeling of not fitting in, blown out to a massive proportion. And I do want to say two things here about what I really enjoy about this whole sequence with the orchestra exchange between it's just fantastic. It's fantastic as only occur. Like, I love music, but I don't understand it as well as people who are musicians. But seeing that exchange is an amazing moment, and to me, the whole thing with Richard Dreyfuss at the end with being put in the line, it's very Chaplin-esque. Because, and I wonder if there are influences from that, because he almost feels, because everyone else is so tall, and even the women who are chosen are very tall and rigid and have the sunglasses and all this kind of stuff. They're very presentable, perfect specimens. And then you have the dude at the end of the line, the small Jewish guy who's like so out of place. And it feels very much like Chaplin when you would see Chaplin feel, and he'd be in line and he'd be the one that looks so out of place and everyone else is so important and proper.
Excellent observation.
It's just so interesting to watch that, and the comedy of the scene. Once again, Spielberg's levity in this incredibly serious moment that also adds to the beauty of him when Dreyfuss is taken onto the ship, and just happily taken onto the ship. I love it. I cry every time. I cried so hard when I saw it.
I cry every time I see this movie.
Yeah.
I really do.
I
always lose it.
It's a really moving film.
Yeah. I was so surprised how moving this film was.
Well, and this is I think we're kind of at our final thoughts.
Listen, this is a film that here I am, seen the movie, I lost track, but talking with you guys about this makes me want to go back and watch it again. Because hearing you talk about like the Holocaust, allegory and just so many things that we've talked about that I didn't even know myself, and I thought I knew everything about this movie. This is what Cine-Files is all about. Absolutely. And this is what a movie like Close Encounters is all about, that you could see it over and over again and still miss things and rediscover it in a way. But no matter how many times I will continue to watch the film, one thing I know is that I will be moved very, very deeply, and I will love it just as much as I did the first day I saw it in November of 1977.
How about you?
For me, I think this film is a very universal film. Those of us who are artists or hear a different song than everyone else, we pursue it all our lives. We pursue that spaceship all our lives, sometimes at the cost of relationships, friendships, financial success, anything. We pursue it because we love it. We can't quantify it. We see everyone else acting normal, and we don't understand why we can't be the way they are and find what we think their happiness is, because we're driven by something else. We hear another song, like Sirens. We hear that siren song, and we have to go either crash onto the rocks or make love to that siren. You know, we just get driven by it. And this is what this film represents to me. And maybe it's because where I'm at in my life, the film itself really speaks a lot of what that journey is like. And I think it's very relatable film, very understandable film, and it still has lessons to teach us today. And I think no more so than the unknown doesn't have to be something you have to fear. The unknown might surprise you and be more beautiful than you can possibly ever imagine. You just have to have the strength and the desire to get there.
Beautifully told.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah. And first of all, I want to thank both of you, because I learned so much in this conversation. And I'm thinking about this movie in so many different ways than I was when I started. And that is what, great conversation of film is about. For me, I already said that this doesn't really fit into those, adventure films that so much took us from the end of the 70s into the 80s. And the film, in a weird way, that I kept associating this with is 2001. Is that there's the personal story, which you just spoke so eloquently about, that's moving in a way that 2001 is not moving.
Right.
But in the end, I find this movie more mysterious every time I watch it, because I actually don't know what just happened. I don't know if this was positive or negative. I don't know what the aliens wanted. I don't know what Francois Truffaut was really doing, or how he figured out what he figured out. I don't know if this is a good thing or bad thing that's happening to Richard Dreyfuss. I don't know who Richard Dreyfuss's character, who Roy would have been, had this not occurred to him. Right. There's so much of this movie where I go, wait, why are they grabbing these people? Where did they take these pilots from 30 or 40 years ago? They don't look in good shape when they get off that plane. What did they do to Barry?
They're out of it.
They're out of it.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what just happened. And yet, I find it so moving.
Because you want to.
Yeah, because you want to. And because something, as Richard Dreyfuss says when he's looking at some mashed potatoes, there's something important here. I know that this is important. I know that it's moving. I know that it's powerful, and I will never fully understand it.
I never, as much as I don't know the motive, it never occurred to me that the motive for the aliens was anything less than good.
I think that's what the movie wants you to. I think that's Spielberg's intention.
But you could argue that it's not.
I don't know.
Sure. And that's what makes it a great film.
And that is also what makes it something different from something I always thought that it was, but maybe, just maybe, it's not. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Because any great film is one that will be open to interpretation to different people too.
Absolutely. And I think at 7 to 10 years old, you do think it's good. As you get older, you put your own life experience in there, and you don't know. And that's great.
Because Barry opened that door with hope and curiosity.
Yes.
But maybe I wouldn't.
Maybe not now.
I don't know. Barry's brave.
That's a brave little
Barry's
kid.
and bringing it back to that moment, the signature moment of the film, is this is a film that 5 years, 10 years, maybe even 40 years from now, I'm still going to open the door to Close Encounters and be curious about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that's what we think of Close Encounters. Of course, we always want to hear what you think. You can visit us on our Facebook page at Cine-Files, CINE-FILES. You can subscribe to us on iTunes, on Stitcher, on YouTube. You can leave comments for us on YouTube. You can leave reviews on iTunes. please leave us those reviews. They
Yes.
really help us go up in the rankings. We read everything you write on YouTube. And if you want to support us, you can do so on our Patreon page. That's patreon.com/thecine-files. And if you were to go there, perhaps right now, you would hear a conversation with Scott Mantz as we discuss Blade Runner 2049. It's well worth being a Patreon subscriber to hear that conversation. As always, you can reach me at SR Morris. John, where can they reach you?
You guys can always find me at The Roca Says on Twitter and on Instagram. And, of course, every Tuesday with the Top 10 Show and every Thursday with Outlaw Nation, both on the SK Plus podcast channel.
And Scott, if anyone wanted to find you on the wonderful world of the internets, how would they do so?
Just make it simple. Hit me up at on Twitter at MovieMantz. That's the best place to find me.
All sorts of great conversations there. Scott, I cannot begin to thank you enough for this conversation.
It is I who am grateful, gentlemen. This is our third go-around together. Third time was truly the charm, and the first time were pretty charming, too.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. You guys are awesome. I
Thank
freaking
you.
love the Cine-Files. You're the
Brother,
best.
it's always great to spend time with you.
Yes.
So thank you.
Thank you so much. So that's it for this week. We will see you next time on the Cine-Files.